Hello, this is the first part of Shed No Grace on Me by Neon Zangetsu. Link will be in the description. All author's notes have been removed between chapters. Also, any explicit NSFW scene will be removed. This part will cover chapter 1 to 7. Never been one for blessings or gods. What's that? Me maidenless? Really? Ha! That's cute. Tilda, Shed No Grace on Me. That is a big tree. Kurama's remark was certainly on point, Naruto mused. A mighty oak, great and gilded like so much spun gold, it loomed large across the horizon. Easily the biggest thing he'd ever laid eye on, and he'd seen more than a few giant monstrosities in his day. Yes, right, big golden tree. Very nice, very impressive, very bright. That much had never been in question. The next bit? Not so. Blue Eyes swept left. Blue Eyes swept right. He didn't see a single soul in sight. What he did see were rolling green hills dotted with piecemeal ruins, a sprawling landscape as open as it was vast. This was in every way a foreign land to him, a place he'd never been before. Seeing was, as they say, believing. And he didn't believe for a single solitary second that he was anywhere near home. His pulse quickened in his veins as his thoughts began to race, the drums of a great hunt out for blood. Where? In the blue hell. Had they woken up this time? Why do we keep waking up in strange places like this? His breath hitched in his throat, heralding a surge of panic lest he hyperventilate. He bit down on it and stomped it into bloody oblivion. Stop! Don't panic. Arms? Check. He glanced over at his right limb, thankful to find it still in one piece. The bandages were still holding at least, even if the fingers were a little stiff. Legs? He glanced down and heaved a sigh. All right? Not hurt or crippled in any way? Great. Which brought him back to the matter at hand. Here! Where? How? Did I eat some tainted ramen or something? Stop panicking! A low sigh pervaded the back of his mind. You're giving me a headache. Easy for him to say. Everything had been fine. His last memory was of his head hitting the pillow. He'd been safe and warm in his bed, sleeping off that mission. He barely even remembered the details. Something about a scroll and a ring or something. You mean the ring on your finger? Blue Eyes snapped to his left hand, on his fourth finger. All the colour drained out of his face. It was a simple thing, a little golden banrit with symbols, runes. He didn't much understand. He tried to tug it free, only for it to cling tight to his finger. Much to his chagrin, the damn thing actually seemed to constrict around his flesh, biting down painfully. What the hell? Why won't it come off? Congratulations. He could hear the smile in his partner's voice. Looks like you got hitched when you weren't looking. To who? He bleated back. Another tug, another failure. Oi! Guys! Raising his voice, he called out to the wilds. You got me all right? You can come out now. Get this thing off me! Silence reigned supreme. This ain't funny. Damn. Look around. Kurama prodded him when he began to flounder. Maybe there's something we can use to get our bearings. There, in the distance, movement. A giant knight clad in golden armor, astride an equally large horse. Who was it? A man? A woman? Distance and armor made it impossible to discern their identity. Something was better than nothing. For lack of any other option, he started down the hill towards them. No need to use the cloak here. The rider cantered back and forth almost lazily, utterly unaware of his presence. Still he came closer, only a stone's throw away now. Hey! He shouted, waving a hand. Any chance you know where I are? His words pitched into a yelp as the rider pivoted with frightful grace and brought a golden halberd crashing down into an equally golden palm. Blue Eyes blazed red as the ground cratered underfoot. That, he hissed, wasn't very nice. Then he yanked. Clonk! Clenched knuckles barreled upright in a rousing uppercut, ripping the halberd from the golden knight's grasp and striking them dead on the chin in the same instant. Their mount reared. Rider met ground. Even as it began to rise, Naruto leaped onto its chest. A sandal-clad foot stomped down, eliciting a low groan from his would-be killer as it drove them back into the dirt. Wrestling their shield down, he shoved a kunai up under the warrior's chin, point tickling the pale expanse of an exposed throat. Let's just calm down and reset our tempers, eh? He hummed softly. I'm not your enemy. Don't make me use this. The night went still beneath him. At length it made a tiny awkward noise. Now I'm going to let you go. Promise not to attack me? Another faint sound, almost like a sigh. All right, Tild. He stepped back, muscles tense, red to flee. The man, was it man or not, rose ponderously, sitting with legs folded beneath them. Their mount loosed an anxious whinny and pawed at the ground with a hoof, but made no move to attack. Seemed it had a brain, after all, like its master. Good girl. He reached a hand up, offering it to the warhorse. I'm not going to hurt you. A low snort told him just what the steed thought of that. Still, it nosed his hand. Its emotions were easy enough to read. A simple lowering of his hands and loosening of his stance was all it took to calm the beast. Great. Now, he turned his attention back to the fallen knight. Can you point me toward the nearest village? Or better yet, tell me where the hell I am. I'd settle for that. The knight didn't speak. It only waved its hands, pantomiming something he didn't understand. Naruto blinked. Blinked again now as the knight continued to perform. What in blaze was this, a puppet show or something? Couldn't make heads or tails of it. Can't you talk? He couldn't see the face behind that helm, but he could feel the disdain within their gaze. The knight shook their head, slowly. Ouch? Naruto winced despite himself. My bad. You can only grunt, huh? Huh. As he looked on, the knight made another gesture, slowly. More deliberately now, it pointed toward the giant tree, then to him, now toward a castle in the distance. That, at least, he understood. Maybe he'd find someone actually capable of speech that way. Still. Don't you dare. We have enough on our plate. We don't need a tag along. Oh, a whim. He offered them a hand and helped them to their feet. Want to be friends? Rather than offer anything in the way of an answer, the warrior turned away and began to retrieve its fallen weapons. Oi! Here at last, the great sentinel paused, hefting their halberd and shield. Naruto tensed anew, ready to flee at the first sign of trouble. He didn't relish the idea of killing anyone, but he wasn't about to stand there and be killed himself. He stood his ground as it stalked back toward him. Only then did he realize how damnably tall it was. It stood tall, looming head and shoulders over him, brimming with unknowable intent. Wow. He looked up. You're a big one, ain't ya? Tense as he was, he couldn't help but jump as that heavy halberd slammed into the soil buried deep. The shield joined it a moment later, crashing down with such force that he felt his teeth rattle. And he wasn't even the intended target. Eh? What are you doing? Bereft of its weapons, the knight paid him no heed whatsoever. Instead removed its gauntlets, exposing pale hands. As he looked on aghast, the golden knight knelt before him and bowed its head low. Kneeling? Was this knight actually kneeling to him? Why? Slowly, almost ponderously, it reached up to its helm and began to undo the straps there. With only a minor grunt, the sentinel removed their helm. An ebony curtain cascaded down their back, spilling down broad shoulders. With reverent grace, they set their helm aside, raised their gaze, and looked him in the eye. Naruto's jaw clicked open. Ah! He managed less than eloquently. So that's what you look like. Bright green eyes blinked back at him, set within a stern visage and framed by those midnight tresses. Her face bore a jagged scar, hooking down from here forehead to well under her right ear, or what remained of it. An old wound by all accounts and healed, albeit poorly. Pink with age, younger than he expected, his tongue betrayed him in spectacular fashion. So you're a girl, huh? Why didn't you say so? Her eyes narrowed, thin lips pursed into an angry line. She opened her mouth to retort, but rather than speak, jabbed a finger just shy of it. Kurama hissed in his head. Naruto winced himself when he beheld the mangled bud of flesh there. He'd been right on the money, and yet now he sorely wished he'd been wrong. She didn't have a tongue. Someone had ripped it out. Huh. It had been a while since he felt anger. Who did that to you? She just stared. Fine. He'd fight that battle later. You got a name? A shake of the head. When she made an irritated noise, she stabbed her finger into the dirt and scrawled a rough message. I no longer have one. I was the tree's sentinel. No more. No less. Another pause. She wrote another line beneath it. I have failed in my duty and disgraced the Erd tree. Slay me. When she made to write again, he caught her wrist. She stabbed a finger at the message. Nope. His brow furrowed. Tree sentinel. That wouldn't do. Everyone deserved a name. Even a mute, wounded wretch like this. His temper stirred again and he shoved it down. Who would wound someone like this, tear out their tongue, and leave them alive? It just wasn't right. He couldn't imagine living a life without speech. It horrified him. The wound was old and healed, but maybe he could do something about it. Thoughts for later, he supposed. Lady, I gotta call you something. He flailed for a second, thinking. Tree Sentinel. Gave up and mashed the words together as only he could. I've got it! I'll call you Trish then. He snapped his fingers and stabbed one at her. How's that sound? Meshed the words together a little. Amazing, right? The Tree Sentinel made a baffled noise and shook her head. Nope. He smacked his lips. I deny your denial. That's your name now. She made a waffling movement with her right hand, telling him just what she thought of her new title. A faint smile creased his lips. Hey, I did the best I could, all right? I'd like to see you come up with one, you cheeky brat. She glanced toward the message she'd left, almost longingly. Sorry, he hummed. I'm not gonna kill you. Not gonna let you kill yourself either. Why don't you come with me? She reared back, eyes wide. A hand touched her chest. Her lips parted, mouthing a single word. Me? You see any other giant knight here? He batted her shoulder. Come on, it'll be fun. Well said. A new voice intoned behind them, cutting him short. I did not expect you to best the Sentinel in such a manner. Perhaps you are the one I seek. Where did she come from? I didn't sense her. Naruto pivoted, just in time to watch a young woman appear out of the ether. The Sentinel stilled behind him, watching the newcomer intently. Greetings. Her manner was smooth as silk, traveller from beyond the fog. Manifesting from a swirl of blue light and clad in black of cloak, this fresh stranger hid her face from them, or did, until she reached up and tugged down her hood. By contrast to the stoic warrior he'd only just befriended, here stood a young woman with chestnut hair, fair and fleet of foot. Her left eye was bound shut by a strange black mark, the like of which he didn't understand. As he looked on, she knelt before him, almost gingerly, as if she were afraid of spooking him. A slow, ponderous silence pushed between them. At length she broke it. I am Melina. Her lone eyes met his. I offer you an accord. Chapter 2. That man, well, he doesn't take kindly to those who kill callously or needlessly. And what have you been doing all this time? That's right. You know, so many lives. So much grafting. All for your precious power. Do you hear him now? He's coming. Run away, little lord. Oh, yes. Run! Tilda? Spirits and summons. This world was absolutely broken. Naruto realized this fundamental truth just before the first night passed. And what an ugly truth it was. He'd known this wasn't his world. He could accept that much now, albeit begrudgingly. Everyone and everything he'd encountered here, with very few exceptions, tried to kill him on sight. Well, good for them, but he wasn't about to go down without a fight. Again, that didn't bother him. What bothered him was death, or the apparent lack thereof in this world. Tonight, they'd taken refuge in the crumbling remains of a church with a rather curious merchant, well outside of Stormvale Castle. The man had been more than happy to offer a great many wares at discount and a hint about howling wolves in a place called Mistwood in exchange for tonight's protection. As leader, first watch fell to him, leaving him to tend a lonesome fire while his companions slumbered near a half-demolished wall. His gaze flicked their way, make certain no harm had come to them while he wasn't looking, then swiveled back to the darkness. A mute girl and a woman who could vanish into thin air made for strange bedfellows, he felt. Quite the merry little fellowship we're forming, Kurama remarked. I'll say. He nudged the fire with a stick. What do you think of 'em? The big one's easy to read, but the other... She's more than she seems. You all right? Just a little shaken. He had every right to be, given what he'd witnessed today. They'd stumbled into soldiers on the way here. Not the chatty sort, those. They hadn't been willing to back down, and an attempt to skirt them led to an attack in turn. Trish had beaten them to a pulp. No contest. He'd managed to drive the rest away, but the deed was done. A small shiver shook his shoulders. He'd recovered from that much, even forgiven her for attacking blindly. He couldn't find fault with that. Not so what came after. Said men had been alive and well after they rested at one of these grace sites. Alive and well. They even seemed to recognize them, if only because they weren't quite so eager to engage a second time. For reasons he didn't understand, enemies seemed unable to die here. And if they did, it didn't stick for long. Did that apply to everyone, or only certain persons? Did he even want to test it? Broken indeed. A fitting term, given all this talk of shattering and broken rings and whatnot. Melina had proven rather talkative in that manner. This realm, The lands between, she called it, was in every way screwed, which begged the question. How to fix it? Did he even want to? Should he? Did he have that right? Of course you do. You're not the sort to let folks suffer. Yeah, I know, but I don't even know where. His senses tingled, warning him. Might I have a word? He pivoted in place. A woman in white robes awaited him, perched upon a rocky outcrop, 4 hands folded in her lap, blue hands. He tilted his head, trying to get a look beneath the wide-brimmed hat she wore, and succeeded at the last. A lone eye regarded him from a cherubic face, pale as can be. A pleasure to meet thee, tarnished. Her voice was low, husky even. I am the witch, Renna. He knew a lie when he sensed one. That's not your real name, is it? She didn't answer. Oh, come on. He winced a little, sensing her anger. I wasn't trying to make you angry. You're cold, right? There's plenty of space here at the fire. She didn't budge. A blonde brow rose. Really? Her brow furrowed. I do not require warmth. Be that way, would she? Fine. Then he'd come to her. I've heard tell of a warrior hurtling about these lands, making all manner of madness. Her lone eye drilled into him as he picked himself up and wandered her way. And upon looking into the matter, the talk, I surmise, is of thee. Heat crept up the back of his neck. He scratched at it. That'd be me, yeah, as I thought. A thin smile was his reward. Then I must ask, what do you hope to gain from all this? Nothing, really. He turned and stared back into the campfire, heat smouldering in his eyes. I like helping people. As she looked on, he threw a stick into it, sparking the dying embers to new heights. This place seems like it needs a lot of help. His spirit warmed to the words, even as he said them. So that's what I'm going to do. He didn't really know where to start, but he'd be damned if he didn't try. Fool of a boy! Her lips pursed into a thin line. You cannot save everyone. He laughed at her, actually dared to laugh, as he hadn't in a long time. See, that sounds like a challenge, and I've never backed down from one of those. I ask again, Ronnie pressed, what does thou hope to gain? Naruto smiled. He had his answer at last. Happiness. 0.0, 0.0. He'd spoken with the witch last night. Melina knew it was no business of hers. Indeed, anyone else would have been well asleep. She'd only noticed by chance, and in noticing, her anxiety raced to new heights. It galled her. She was no true maiden, not really, but she had her purpose, just as Rani likewise had hers. He need not consort with that one, and yet he had. They'd sat and talked for some time. Her tarnished was a curious sort, it seemed. Such rankled, but she couldn't fault him for it. Perhaps he wasn't her tarnished at all. He didn't act like one in the least. He had no destination in mind? Indeed, he wandered hither and yon without a care in the world. She'd already tried to nudge him in the direction of Stormvale Castle and the great rune within, but he seemed immune to her machinations. He'd laughed when she offered to turn his runes to strength, because, you see, he didn't have any runes. Naruto had not slain a single soul, not since he'd come to this land, not a one. Even now, she watched him lay out a soldier with a powerful punch to the head. He stooped to a knee, made certain the poor soul still lived, and kept walking. Baffling. Others parted for him, falling to fists and techniques she'd not seen the like of. None could touch him. None came close. And still, he remained in his base state. This man was a warrior, a fighter. He knew his way around the battlefield and fought with frightful speed. His techniques rent armor apart and his fists shattered weapons like so much kindling. Where he walked, enemies fell in trove. He could have torn his way through them in a tornado of blood, reaped their runes and left them to rot. Yet he didn't. Why? Why wouldn't he kill? He wasn't afraid to fight, but the injuries he inflicted were of a minor sort. Not so the tree sentinel, or Trish as he called her. She'd seen her fight. That one was a whirlwind of woe to any who came near her or her mount. The wise fled at the sight of her. The foolhardy had their heads stove in by halberd and shield. But not her tarnished. She deferred to him wordlessly, as was her wont. He must be a soft sort. The realization alarmed her, and not in a good way. Her tarnished wanted to help others, to heal rather than hurt. Wait, her tarnished? She'd only known him for a few days. When had she come think of him as such? Moreover, who did he think he was, sparing his foes? Well, that settled it then. Her tarnished was bloody mad. Melina felt he must be insane, if only because it explained his recent spate of actions. He did not seek out Godric the Grafted as his kin had before him. No, nay, never. He seemed intent on ranging about the wilds in search of every nook and cranny. Every chest, every bit of material, anything he could get his hands on. When his tall companion balked at such, he simply pointed out that they'd need such things to survive. Melina felt he was just hoarding things. Would he be strong enough to face Godric in all his grisly glory? She could but hope, twisted though he may be. He was a demigod. He'd been the end of many a tarnished before. Oi, do you have to do that? Naruto turned suddenly, looking right at her, right through her hidden spectral form. If you're going to travel with us, you could at least help shoulder some of our burdens. Carry some stuff, you know. Melina bridled. It was a bluff. He couldn't be aware of her presence, nay, surely not. None could find her or harm her in her spectral form. Ignore him. Maybe if she remained silent, perfectly still, he'd let her be. I may not be able to see you when you're like that, but I can sense you pretty easily. Naruto planted a fist on his hip, tone almost chiding toward her, as an elder brother might speak unto a younger sibling. Now come down here, stop hiding, and quit wasting everyone's time. Damn him. She appeared with a huff. You need not be rude about it. Ain't trying to be, he drawled. But if you want to help us, you can at least do your part. Rather than relent, Melina steered the subject to safer waters. You would do well not to trust that witch. Nah. That dazzling smile flashed out again, stark as sunbeams. I think I'll be all right. She doesn't seem the dangerous sort, you know. How very little he knew. That one was dangerous. She knew full well, after all. Her name is Rani, I know. His head bobbed. She told me. Melina balked. How did you... Well, she introduced herself as Renna at first. His lips quirked in a small smile as they walked. But she told me after I badgered her a bit. Ran away soon after that, though. Rani? Running away? How unlike her. No, that wasn't her concern. Not anymore. Melina grit her teeth until she felt her jaw ache. No, she couldn't break their pact. Allez, alas, the deed was done, the deal made, their accord sealed in both word and bond. It could not be undone so easily. He didn't seem to care. Fine. If he didn't care, then she cared not what he thought, not a jot. Witches aside, I suggest you take heed in other matters. And if her words were a tad clipped, she pretended not to notice. Lest you run afoul and find yourself grafted by Godric. You've said that word before. Grafting. His gaze snapped to hers. Tell me more about this grafting thing. A cold certainty settled in Melina's gut. Surely he knew. He must. He couldn't be so ignorant. Do you truly not know? He squinted at her, rather reminding her of a fox. Know what? Perhaps it was remiss of her to manipulate him in such a manner. His expression said he knew full well what she was doing. But his love for life could be a boon here. If he knew the atrocities that thing committed every day, then he might yet hasten to stop him. Or die, a nasty little voice whispered in the back of her head. Nonsense. He wouldn't fall so easily, surely. You truly are a stranger to these lands, aren't you? She tried to keep the scorn from her words to no avail. He kills dozens of tarnished by the day and adds them to his host. His body. The silence that followed threatened to choke the very life from her lungs. Blue eyes glazed over, cold with anger. Does he now? Melina let him go and vanished back into the ether. Not an hour later, they came upon the shack. 0.0, everyone has been grafted. 3 little words, yet they set Naruto's blood to boiling. Everyone who came with me. The hooded woman at his feet continued to babble, heedless of his mounting rage. They crossed the sea for me. They fought for me. She hugged herself, as though afraid her limbs would come flying off at any moment, only to have their arms taken, and their legs, and their heads. She swallowed once, shivering a little. All of it, taken and stuck to the spider? He hadn't thought to find anyone here, let alone a tale of woe like this. Spider? He croaked out, remembering Melina's warning. Didn't you know? She looked up at him, eyes damp. If you're stuck to the spider, you become a chrysalid. Quite the lark, when you think about it. A weak laugh tumbled out of her. You're headed to Stormvale Castle, aren't you? Hope you weren't enticed by that fellow with the strange mask. His brow furrowed. He hadn't met a man in a mask. You've come to be one with the spider, I presume. He could feel the front she was putting up, even through her fear. That makes us 2 peas in a pod, but I don't have your courage. It's scary, you know. Her voice warbled a little now. Tiny, pitiful thing that she was. Having your arms cut off, or your legs, or your head. She lowered her head in shame. I want to be like everyone else. but I'm just too scared. I'm nothing but a craven, you see. He knelt before her and didn't budge. If it's not too much trouble, could you pass on a message for me if you see the little chrysalids up in the castle? Earnest eyes turned up to meet his once more. Tell them I love them, and that despite my craven heart, I'm sure I'll be joining them soon enough. I'm finally getting the hang of this pain thing, you know. Kuram absolutely hissed in his head. Naruto felt a strange sensation bloom in his chest. It felt hot. Hate. Was this hate? How long had it been since he experienced it? Not since pain, not this raw primal level of anger. That settled it. He'd be having a word with this Godric fellow. Several words. Loud words, involving fists, and quite possibly a Rasengan, or 3. I suggest a Rasen Shuriken. Can you perhaps take this little one along with you? She offered him a box of ashes, tugging him back to reality. The poor thing deserves someone braver than me, I think. There it was again, that shy, tremulous smile, as if she half expected him to break her in half. And the spirits look rather fondly upon you. It'll be glad of your company, I think, the little one. Naruto made up his mind. His hands flew out and seized hers. So you can use summoning jutsu then? That's amazing! 0.0. So you can use summoning jutsu then? That's amazing. Of all the words Roderica had hoped to hear, these were not that. Jutsu? What on earth was a jutsu? And his hands were so very terribly warm. Her eyes flitted down to her fingers, clasped between his palms. Treacherous fingers betrayed her and squeezed a little tighter. You really think so? The words babbled out of her in a rush. Then came her shame. I'm afraid you're mistaken, sir. I'm not amazing, no, not at all. None of that! His cry slew her doubts before they could take root. It's tough at first, starting out as a summoner. Believe me, I know. His head bobbed before she could muster the nerve to speak. But you mustn't give up. Those strong arms thrashed hers up and down as he shook her hands. It gets easier after a while. Trust me. She jolted beneath the force of his words. Who was he? He had stumbled upon her by purest chance. And now he seemed hell-bent on lifting her spirits. Spirits. A poor joke. Even so, the man before her burned so bright in her sixth sense. A sun in all its gleaming glory. Even the Erd tree itself seemed dim by comparison. No, such thoughts were blasphemy. Speaking of which, he had a bloody tree sentinel right there behind him. Couldn't they read minds? She'd heard the stories. And really, what was he doing with a sentinel anyway? That brute had nearly felled more than a few of her friends before Godric's men came. Would that giant knight lop off her head? You should come with us. Roderica's neck nearly suffered whiplash. Me! The word emerged as a tiny squeak. I couldn't possibly. I'd only slow you down, and it's not safe out there. A blonde brow quirked. Ain't much safer here. He was right about that much. A strong breeze could knock these walls down. Look, he raised a thumb to his mouth just shy of his lips. Let's compromise. If I beat this Godric guy, the tree sentinel made a disbelieving noise behind their helm, then would you come with us? Naruto finished. Could he? This particular tarnish did not lack for confidence, if nothing else. But did he possess the ability? Could a mere mortal ever hope to best a demigod? She'd never laid eye on Godric the Grafted, not herself, but she'd heard tell of him all the same. Legends had it he was terribly strong, even in his waning age. Powerful enough to still be Lord of Stormvale, even after all this time. The roads would certainly be safer. Roderica shook her head a moment later, refusing to dwell on such. But you can't. He's much too powerful, even for someone like you. Great! His smile told her she'd fallen right into his trap. Till then, I'll leave you with a guard, just in case. Before she could think to stop him, he bit down on his thumb. Blood sprayed forth. Roderica jerked back, hands flailing to protect her face. What are you doing? This. He grinned, took 3 long strides backward for safety, and slapped his hand against the ground. Summoning jutsu! Smoke sprayed forth as runic script burst forth from his palm. A dark shape emerged from within, looming large over the shack, larger now, largest still. Roderica looked up, squinting against the haze. What was that? An enemy dragon, perhaps? It was so terribly large. A sudden gust of wind swept the smoke away. The tree sentinel made a terrified noise. Roderica stood in agreement. Not a dragon. Nay, not at all. She felt her jaw click open all the same. That is a very large frog. Toad, actually, Naruto corrected. They're touchy about that. Why? Bloody blasted thing was bigger than a house. Yo, Naruto! The beast bade the blonde greeting because, apparently, it could speak. Oh gods, she felt faint. Long time no see. Hey, Gamakichi. Her fellow blonde waved up at the monstrosity. I need a favor. Would you mind? Roderica barely heard the enthusiastic exchange that followed between the unlikely two. She retreated inward, withdrawing to a tiny inlet of calm within her mind. Even then, her world swam anew and she felt faint. Not only did he have a spirit inside him, but he could summon them. How paltry that made her seem. He hadn't even summoned something from the ashes. This was a living, breathing creature, and how had she gotten into this mess? Hey! The summoner blinked, drawn back to reality by the tugging of her sleeve. Just stay put with my buddy here. The blonde man offered her his hand. I promise he'll protect you. I'll be right back. Bold, this one! Did he even realize what he was saying? Her fingers curled around his ever so gently. Might I have your name, sir? 0.0. Nephili knelt before the dead man and paid her respects. Be proud. She touched a hand to the chest of the sundered knight shivering at her feet. You were a fine warrior. Your only mistake was your choice of master. Her hand eased the dented visor shut, obscuring the bloody ruin of the man's face from sight alongside his last gapers. Rest now. Let the winds lift you to a higher place. The warrior expired beneath her with a rasping gurgle. It almost sounded like a sigh. She straightened with one of her own. Such a pity. Though their lord was rotten and their bodies twisted within, these were fine fighters. It shamed her to slay such, but it was her duty. They could not be suffered to live, not as they mindless monsters they'd become in the wake of the shattering. Now for Godric. She would face him and slay him or die in the offing. The door slammed open. Nephili jerked back, reaching for an axe, prepared for an attack. She had time enough to take in bright blue eyes, whiskered cheeks dimpled in a scowl, and sunny blonde hair. Then he was upon her, all but flinging himself into the room. You! The word burst out of the intruder in a shout that shook her bones. He both looked and sounded fed up beyond measure. Don't you dare! Nephili found herself standing at attention despite it. Me? Are you gonna attack us like everyone else? She shook her head slowly. Nay, not on her best day. Not when he was covered in that much blood, none of it his own. Had he waded through the castle to get here? And who was that giant of a woman after him? She couldn't even fit through the doorway, such was her height. She had to physically crouch down just to look in after him. Closer inspection revealed golden armor, a familiar halberd, and, oh shit! Nephili's blood ran cold. Tree sentinel. What was a spirit's damned sentinel doing her? Tarnished, are you? She took the initiative for what it was and made curt introductions. I am Nephili Lu, tarnished and warrior, here by decree of my father. She cast a glance to the knight at her feet. How utterly repellent this is. This grafting of Godric's ill befits a lord. He's tainted the very winds. He was just staring at her. Did he even hear what she was saying? If you intend to challenge Godric, I ask that you call upon me to fight by your side. She could only assume he was, with a look like that about him. The winds run cold with his deeds, and so did she at the thought of facing him alone. I'm certain father would permit me to aid you in the coming battle. Did I hear right, just now? The man stormed forward, claiming her attention once more. You after Godric. Her brain fizzled under his direct gaze. Yes? Blue eyes sparked with wild fury. That sounds grand. Chapter 3. A lord's kinda like a Hokage when you think about it. He stands up for his people. Speaks for them, you know. He gives them a shoulder to lean on when they're tired and another to cry on when they weep. He bears their burdens with them, laughs with them, shares in both their joy and their sorrow, their pain. All of it. He doesn't hurt them. He does not take advantage of them. He certainly doesn't take and take and take until they have nothing left to give. If your precious lord would do such things, then your lord is evil. That's right. You heard me. You are no lord, Godric. Tilda, bear witness. So we're all in agreement. Godric needs to pay. With his life. That is my only demand. On that much we agree. Nah! Great! Naruto clapped his hands and leaned back against the ruined corridor wall, regarding the trio before with a merry smile. I'm so glad we're finally on the same page. His piece said, he turned and fixed Nepheli with a glare. But not death. Ah! Wait a sec! A hand came up when she scowled and made to speak. Let me finish. When I say no death, I meant not yet. The barbarian warrior opened her mouth, closed it, considered. Are you going to torture him? No, nay, and never. Not this style. Nope. He shook his head, denying her. Death is quick. Final. A release, even. His fingers snapped, cutting her short. Just like that. Your life's snuffed out and you're gone. I've seen death. You kill Gordic and he'll be away off to the afterlife or whatever passes for that in this world. No justice for all those he's wronged. Is that what you want? Her piercing gaze met his and Naruto lifted his chin to meet it. Adorable. If she meant to intimidate him, she had a long way to go. Cute. We've grappled with a goddess already. She'll need a bit more divinity to make us cower. You intend to take his great rune, then? Something dawned in her eyes. To leave him powerless? Me. He waffled a hand before her. I intend to ask him what the hell he's doing and then kick his sorry hide if I don't like the answer, but sure, that works. No idea what a rune is, though. At length she backed down. As you say, warrior. Warrior, not shinobi. Nor a tarnished. Either. Heat flared in his face. He wasn't sure why. Stop calling me that, he grumbled, looking away. He's not getting away from his massacres that easily. Trish made a disbelieving noise and folded both arms before her armored bosom. Naruto rounded on her, feeling somewhat bemused. She donned her helmet anew, the silly girl. Doubtless to try and hide her face from him once more. Clever, but next to useless where he was involved. Even now he could sense her emotions roiling like a frothing cauldron. What? You don't think I can do it? The mute tree sentinel granted him a grave nod. Once such a lack of confidence would have stung. Rankled him in the worst of ways. Now, he simply smiled. Everyone always underestimated him. Some of his greatest foes had thought him little more than a harmless breeze. Until this breeze kicked up an almighty hurricane and thrashed them within an inch of their lives. She'd been no different, and there would likely be many more in this wild, warped world who thought the same. Fine, let them. He'd been doubted before, ages ago, considered the underdog, the worthless, the wretched. If everyone in the lands between would doubt him every step of the way, well, seeing the looks on their faces when he pulled this off, it would be all the sweeter. I ain't gonna die. Cursing his lack of height. Why did she have to be so damn tall? He stepped to her and patted her hip. Don't worry, I've got this. Trish pivoted away. This time, the sound she made sounded nothing short of petulant. A polite cough echoed behind him. Now he came to the third and final member of his merry little band. So? He planted both hands in his pockets and squared up. Got something to say? Melina reared back a little, alarmed and not liking the look on his face. Tarnished? Are you angry? Nope. Maybe his reply was a bit too quick, because her good eye narrowed upon him. I'm not. Whatever gave you that idea? She was watching him like a hawk. Not her fault, he supposed. If his face looked anything like what he felt right now, well, it might be more than a little terrifying. There was no need to be afraid, really. He was hardly looking to lash out and hurt someone. No, just Godric. He'd never met the man, never lay eye on him, but something told him he wouldn't like what he found here today. Really, anyone holding the surname of Grafted wasn't going to be a good person. No matter what he said, what he did, it wouldn't bring back the hundreds of lives lost here. Nor could he. For all his strength and skill and speed, Naruto knew he couldn't raise the dead. And that made him angry. In all fairness, Naruto wasn't trying to be scary, truly. He just couldn't recall the last time he'd been this furious. This was a different sort of anger than he was used to. Righteous and pure, burning white-hot in his chest like the sun itself. He held it close to his heart, that molten core, and kept it warm. He'd seen the horrors of Stormvale Castle. The carnage hanging from the ceiling, the ghastly grafting of the spider, a beast he'd had no choice but to put down. All those people, all those lives moulded together, fused in a ghastly amalgamation that made his guts growl just thinking about. All the while the band on his ring finger burned as though it too were affronted by the horrors here. Naruto spared it a black look. Blasted things still wouldn't come off. He was beginning to think it was more than some mere wedding ring. But he had more pressing concerns. The chrysalid's memento was a heavy weight in the sealed pouch set against his thigh, an ugly reminder of Roderica's words. Everyone's been grafted. She might want to see what was left of her men. He would give her that much. His patted it, just to make sure it was there. Initially, his optimism had nagged at his thoughts, arguing against him, wanting to believe there was a reason for such horror. But now, none could argue against this. He'd seen too much. The death, the festering piles of flesh feasted upon by rabid dogs. No matter what some might say, there was no good reason to rip apart people and hang them from your ceiling. Those he hadn't beaten down or driven off had been slain by Trish and Nefili, like that creepy Castellan. They might come back to life in time, made wiser for the experience. They might not. In truth, he no longer cared for this place. He just wanted to fix it and put the horror of Stormvale behind him. Anyone who delighted in this was wrong. If your lord would do such, your lord is evil. Godric had to go. No two ways about it. Others had tried to stop him before if Melina was to be believed. They'd failed. Still, a little voice in him argued against what he was about to do. Everyone deserved a chance. No, not this time. That was the anger talking. But he knew he couldn't just let him be. Not even Madara would have sunk this low, but Kaguya had. This reminded him eerily of her deeds with the White Zetsu, only a far, far more horrific scale. Few would have sunk this low, grafting other people together to make these abominations. There was no saving them, any of them. He'd had to put them down. And the knights defending them. You will triumph, Tarnished. Melina's voice tugged him out of the fog. That is my belief. Naruto quirked a brow, half expecting a lie in her words. He found none. Huh. A crooked smile touched his lips. You actually do. She stood a little bit taller, not preening before his gaze, yet proud nevertheless. Her open eye regarded him intently, and not for the first time he found himself wondering just who she was. For all her claims at playing the part of a maiden, he couldn't help but feel she was more than that. There was a purpose in her, a power held back, leashed by her will alone. For all he knew, Melina might just be the most powerful person here. "'Tis a lord you're about to face." Her next words proved his suspicions. "Do you require my aid in the coming battle?" Kurama offered a low whistle. "Well, aren't you easy to read?" "Not this time." He held up a hand to forestall another argument. "Stand back and let us handle this." Her brow grew stormy. "I am quite capable of defending myself." "I don't doubt that," his voice cut in, a bit sharper than intended as he took her by the shoulders. "But I don't want to see you stuck to that thing." The colour drained to her face, her good eye seeking the fog door. "I understand. I shall abstain just this once." Naruto let her go, watching only absently as she retreated to her ethereal form. Only then did he exhale. Crisis averted. Tarnished could die over and over, that had been made quite clear to him, but he wasn't keen to throw his companions into the fire. Nefili was probably safe in that regard, but Trish and Melina might well be mortal for all he knew. Trish was probably going to fight whether he wanted her to or not, but she was tall, armoured, armed, and had her spectral steed. Against someone known for fusing people to himself, well, he wanted to spare Melina that, if only for a time. All right, then. That was settled. Now for the matter of their unseen watcher. He'd felt it for the last hour, an unseen presence gazing upon them from afar, stalking them, observing their efforts. It loomed close now, closer than ever before. Why hadn't it attacked? Was it waiting for them to face Godric, the better to stab them in the back? The thought soured his mood even further. Kurama's warning did little to help it. He's over there. I can sense him. Restraining a grimace, he craned his neck past one of the ramparts, over the fallen corpse of a troll down the deserted corridor. Blue eyes narrowed. There. The mounting sense of peril loomed large only yards away. He took a stance, preparing himself for the attack he was sure would come. Any moment now. They were exposed here. A proper ambush would do lasting damage. It never came. Instead, he saw, glimpsed, a faint shimmer of dying golden light shuffling around the corner in the opposite direction, as if something or someone were disappearing, returning from whence they came. A trick of the light, perhaps? An overactive imagination. Unbidden, he found himself stepping forward, out of the corridor and into the night. "Hey!" he raised his voice. "Stop stalking us and attack already." "Nay," a low, throaty voice called out, an omen incarnate. "I am not so craven as to strike when your back is turned." The air quivered before his words. For a moment, just a sliver of a second, he beheld someone else fading into the ether. Someone large indeed, larger than Trish even? A horned head turned to regard him now, exposing weathered grey skin, a looming body bound in a ruined cloak. And yet for all that, he moved with deceptive grace. Leaning upon a worn, gnarled staff, they pivoted, facing him fully. Come. The invader beckoned. I would speak with you. Bugger, Nephili swore under her breath. Is that who I think it is? Naruto heard Trish absolutely hiss behind him. She tried to drag him back toward the door. Naruto didn't budge. He stood his ground in turn, refusing to move. His senses took the horned man in an instant, struggling to untangle the complicated knot of emotions that bound up his being. Duty, resolve, resignation. Tired, so very tired, and full of bitterness. He wasn't sure if this was an enemy. Instinct said yes, but his heart said no. He dared a step forward. Still, the stranger made no move to approach nor retreat. What is thy business with Godric? That ominous staff tapped once against the ground, an eerie bell tolling for them. Choose thine words carefully. You already know, don't you? Naruto stalked up to him, forcing a swearing Nephili to follow or be left behind, and Trish in her wake. You've been hounding us since we set foot in this castle. He stopped a stone's throw away, well within reach of that cane, then crossed both arms before his chest. A name would be nice. Margit will suffice. The man loomed large over him now, casting him in his shadow. Another tap of the staff. I need not yours, tarnished. He gave it anyway. Naruto. Ain't much, I know. Trish whined and dragged at Naruto's arm again. The horned man's gaze snapped to her, taking in her armor at once. You tamed a tree sentinel? His bushy brow rose, considering her as one might a cracked gem. Curious. Is she perhaps? No. He made up his mind a moment later. Disgraced, then. Fallen from grace. Your betrayal sullies your order. Trish wilted. Oi, she's not a failure, you. And here I see the daughter of Lu. His all-seeing gaze swept over Nephili next, causing the dusky-skinned woman to bridle in turn. Pitiable. That grey face twisted in a sneer. A motley band, if ever I have seen one. His gaze swept over Melina's spectral form, lingered there to let her know he saw her, then moved on. Your answer, tarnished. I would hear it said from your own mouth. Do you not seek his great rune? Anger sparked. Naruto felt himself convulse in a full-body shudder. This again. It was too much. The whiskered warrior flung up his arms with a cry bordering on explosive. Runes, runes, runes! What is it with you people and runes, huh? I don't even know what a rune is, yet they're all everyone and anyone wants to talk about here. Listen! Stepping forth, he stabbed a finger against Margit's chest. I'm here to stop him from hurting anyone else. That's all? Truly? And what about you? Another jab, heedless of the absolute behemoth before him. Are you working with him too? A third stab upwards now, seeking the heart beneath his bony ribs. Well, answer me. What do you have to say for yourself? Huh? No. Margit did not gape. His jaw did not click open, and he certainly didn't balk like some flustered fool. He was too refined for that, but he did blink. 3 seconds passed. 3 full seconds in which no one moved or even dared to breathe. Bitter laughter filled the air. Naruto jerked back, startled by it. Margit wasn't laughing at him. It sounded like he was laughing at himself. Not even a full-blown cackle, merely more than a chortle, those broad shoulders nevertheless shivered with caustic mirth. Leaning upon his cane, he bent his head low, rumbling deeply. Thou art a curious sort. One hand shifted behind his back. More's the pity, I suppose. That same hand blurred, slamming a massive spectral hammer down at Naruto's head with impossible speed. A single backstep defeated what would have been a death blow. It crashed down at his feet, sending Trish and Nephili flying even as he stood firm. A sandal-clad foot stomped down on the golden edifice and shattered it in a shower of light, leaving the omen grasping naught but empty air. Tan fingers snaked out, snatching at his wrist, reeling him in with ease. Foreheads collided with an awful crunch. Blood spattered. Horns flew through the air. Well. Margit clutched at his face and stumbled away, sounding mildly impressed for the first time since he'd met the man. Thou art of passing skill. Warrior blood must truly run in thy veins. Tarnished. Are you done? Golden sage eyes blazed up at him, heedless of the blood sluicing down his own visage. Because you will be if you try something like that again. Margit flicked his cane forward. Less than an inch from Naruto's face, the cane came close enough to catch the cursed scent coming from within. He slapped it aside in a parry and lashed out in a critical hit. Clenched knuckles found a new home within Margit's gut, folding the larger man over him with a dull wheeze. He was still there, gasping for air, when those furled fingers opened to reveal a Rasengan. Margit tried to draw back. Too little. Too late. Wild blue light keened in the air, rising in a roar of defiance both born by jutsu and man alike. And then he was away. Naruto didn't see the moment the jutsu launched him, but he heard it all the same. It left the towering demigod sprawled on his back, one hand reaching out in vain. Pity stirred in his heart. He'd warned him. He really had. Why did no one listen to him in this blasted world? How many times did he have to prove himself? Even now he'd beaten a man just because he wouldn't back down, even if he sensed that said man had held back the lion's share of his strength. Your heart ain't in this, huh? Margit struggled to rise once more, and failed. Blast you. His duty done, the man slumped. His body began to dissolve into motes of golden light, though his voice yet remained. I shall remember thee, tarnished, smouldering with thy meagre flame. Cower in fear of the night. The hands of the fell omen shall brook thee no quarter. And then they were gone, vanished once more. Wait! I ain't done with you. Naruto lunged after them, intending to pursue, but Trish held him back. He looked up to find her shaking her head. Leave the coward. Nephili hefted an axe, eyes burning. It's time. Godric awaits. She was right. Enough stalling. Time to face the music. Naruto cracked his knuckles. Showtime. 0.0, 0.0. Morgott was no fool. One did not live to be the last of kings by being foolish after all. Even far from the capital, he saw much of what transpired in the lands between, just as he'd seen the look in this one, the gleam in his eye, the steel in his soul. And so he'd chosen to investigate. Under the guise of Margit, he'd sent a projection of himself to test this tarnished, only to learn that this was no mere tarnished. He'd felt it during their clash. This was something else. More. Still, he'd had to be sure. He'd learned much during their encounter. And yet more questions remained. What was that thing bound to his finger? That ring on his hand was undoubtedly a rune. He recognized the sense of one, although he knew not whose. One of hers, perhaps? Marika might craft such? Or perhaps another. It might even be hers. What the devil was she thinking? Could this one be? No. The thorns of the Erd tree would brook no passage. The thorns of the Erd tree would brook no passage. Nothing had changed. Nothing would change. To believe otherwise, to hope, was foolish. He sensed him even now. He was aware of him, a coiled spring, ready to leap if he appeared again. 'Twould be a simple matter to unleash his true strength and strike him down surely. But why should he exert himself overmuch now? For that fop? The death of Godric would trouble him not. Indeed, the realm would be better off without that madman. Next time. He'd try harder next time. On a whim, Morgott made his decision. Just this once. Just this once he let them by. There would be no second time. Miracles only occurred once. 0.0, 0.0. Naruto was going to die. Trish knew it, no two ways about it. If she let him fight alone like that again, he would undoubtedly lose his life. Because this was a bad place. She'd lost her tongue in a castle not unlike this own. Hadn't she? The memory was foggy. She could not slay herself, for honor prevented it. But still she did not wish to see this twig of a boy throw his life away. If it came to that, she would take the blow for him. It was the least she could do. He, who had bested Morgott masquerading as weak Margit, might just be the one to sit the throne. If only he could get past Godric. To that end, she would gladly sacrifice all. Naruto was kind to her, even with her maimed face, her silent voice, and ghastly disfigurements. He had stood for her, even when the fell omen disparaged all her failures. She had pledged herself to him. But would that oath end in death? Time would tell. 0.0, 0.0. Weak, they called him. Useless. Runt of the litter. Godric the coward, Godric the grafted. Oh, how those words burned, how they rankled and seethed and stung. His very spirit shrieked. It wasn't fair, none of it, not at all, not one bit of it. This rotten world had conspired against him from the moment of his birth, even before the shattering. Born sickly, weaker than all those who shared his blood, forced to hide, grovel, scrape and scrounge just to survive, all while his kindred looked down on him. And for what? His earliest memories were of their laughter, cringing aside. You? Strong? Impossible. He'd wanted to be just like them. Was that so wrong? Little Godric, they'd called him. They'd turned up their noses, sneering at him. Only a few had shown him even the tiniest scraps of kindness, the merest morsels thrown to him as one might feed a dog, scraps from their table. Those few were gone now. Mild Michela, gentle Godwin, and rebellious Rani. Dear, dear Godwin and Rani, felled by the night of black knives. Michela gone, vanished to parts unknown. And still the laughter continued, the mocking, the jeering. Fools and fops, the lot of them, unable to understand his greatness. No one understood. Millennia had made that clear, among others things, when she'd brought him low that fateful day. Why, just think of it, made him tremble with rage. Well, no more. Things were about to change. All the grafting he had ever done had led him here to this moment. Small things at first, enough to give him an edge. Then a troll's body to make himself stronger. More arms, more weapons, more strength. Now here at last he had it. This would be his magnum opus. Soon they would see. They would all see. He would have his revenge upon them all. This was but the first step. Mighty dragon, thou art a true-born heir. Humming to himself, he reached out and touched a six-fingered hand to the manged beast before him, 6 fingers tracing its mangled snout. He could only imagine what manner of power lay beneath. Lend me thy strength, O kindred, he crooned, stroking its mantle. Deliver me unto greater heights. With this, he would have power yet greater than before. First one dragon, yes, then more. More. Once he was secure in his power, he would seek out his kin and even graft there to himself. Millennia. He would save that rotten bitch for last. He was the lord of all that was golden. And one day, he would return to the capital, cast down that fool Morgott, and take his rightful place as Elden Lord. He just needed more time, more strength. The fog door stirred behind him. He heard it first, a faint rippling noise as the barrier he'd erected was breached. Indignant, he turned, cloak rippling from his back. Who dared disturb his solitude? Who had the gall? Soon enough, he saw. A young man clad in tattered orange and black rags stalked down the steps, taking them 2 at a time. His hair shone in the moonlight, blue eyes burned, whiskered cheeks dimpling now in a scowl. Bah! Any anxiety he might have felt withered away in the face of such a lowly wretch. Another fool come to take what was his. There could only be one fate for such. Well, now, a lowly tarnished. He scoffed and gripped the haft of his axe, blood warming to battle as the host of arms bridled upon his back. Playing as a lord, are we? He paused as the fog rippled anew behind him. Not just one tarnished, another. Some fool of a woman wielding tea-axes, and behind them, looming over the rest. Goodness, a tree sentinel? Here? Excellent. And without one of those bothersome steeds. She, at least, would make for grand grafting material. Today must be his lucky day. He salivated at the thought. With their might added to his own, his grand design would advance further yet, perhaps even enough to seek out that oaf Rudden. The blond man gagged suddenly and stepped backle, face gone pale as he beheld his glory. How many lives did you graft to yourself? As many as needed, Godric preened, revelling in his fear. And many more to come. I command thee, kneel. His axe, he slammed down, brandishing the leonine crest upon it for all to see, with a merry cackle. I am the lord of all that is golden. And you are? Ground. Wait, ground? Why ground now? Dazed, blinking, Godric's thoughts came back to him. Why was he lying down? Distantly, he registered an awful ache in his jaw and drool training from his chin. Realization dawned and he found his face made level with the dirt in a way no self-respecting lord desired. Had someone dared to strike him, Godric the Golden? The gall of it all. His rage blazed hotter than a dragon's flame. Change of plans? Dizzily, he heard the man's voice. He's mine. This was madness. Yes, this was a trick. Some sinister spell. Get up. He turned his prone form to see that filthy blonde tarnish stalking his way. I said up. His words were a growl righteous fury made manifest. Take your lumps like a man. Godric tried to rise, only for another impossibly fast blow to catch his chin in the interim. Stars, entire galaxies, flashed before his eyes as he reeled. He was still reeling, in fact, when another blow dented his forehead to send him sprawling. Gravity betrayed him like everything else in this world. His body struck the ground and bounced once, skidding a deep furrow into the ground. What sorcery was this? He hadn't seen either attack, and yet here he was, a demigod, bleeding. By a mere tarnished. Up! He had to get up. Blood fountained forth from his split lip as he stumbled to a knee. I am the Lord of... Lord? Through blurry eyes he beheld the blonde stalking forward, eyes glowing gold. You? He shook his head, blonde bangs swaying from side to side. A lord's kinda like a Hokage when you think about it. He stands up for his people. Speaks for them, you know. Cease your prattling. Godric whirled down at him, axes blurring, seeking his head. Begone from my sight. He gives them a shoulder to lean on when they're tired. A hand slapped it away, snapping his arm out of position. And another to cry on when they weep. A second parry knocked him clear onto his back, and a foot came hammering down after it, forcing him to tumble away lest his face be crushed. Rather than pursue, the blonde waited for him to rise. Only then did he continue. He bears their burdens with them, laughs with them, shares in both their joy and their sorrow, their pain, all of it. What do you know about any of that? His words stirred old memories, foul memories. It is the duty of the weak to yield to the strong. He closed on him, wind wailing around him, the storm itself answering his call, his weapons closed on empty air. You're all wrong. Aghast and knowing full well what he would find, Godric nevertheless couldn't quell his instincts. He whirled up, alarmed to find the blonde perched atop his golden uplifted axe like some kind of fell carrion bird, glaring down at him. He doesn't hurt them. Those ice-blue orbs burned into him, judged him, found him wanting, and damned him all in the same instant. He does not take advantage of them. He certainly doesn't take and take and take until they have nothing left to give. His heel whipped out, cracking him across the jaw. Teeth whistled free. Godric greeted the ground again, caught himself, and tumbled to his feet. You missed your chance to take my head, fool. A miracle can only occur once. Frothing, he slashed out at him. You shan't catch me by surprise again. Then what do you call the second time? An open palm touched Godric's back. Something slammed into his spine. Wind keened. He pitched forward, bearing an awful hole in his torso. But his body remained strong. It would not fall to a wound such as this. He clambered upright, eyes stinging, teeth aching. Ears ringing, he crawled forward. The dragon's corpse? An awful idea dawned in his heart. If he could just get to it. If you, a so-called lord, would do such things, then that makes you evil. A hand closed around the back of his head, grabbing a fistful of scraggly grey hair, to hiss in his ear. I'll give you one chance. Tell me you had a good reason for this. He was begging with him, pleading almost. Tell me you didn't kill all these people to satisfy your own lust for power. A groan. Everything I have done. Yes. The blonde leaned in. I'm listening. Is for my own sake. Godric grit his teeth and bucked, tearing a portion of his scalp to get away. The oaf let him go. More fool he. I will stand above them all. I will strive. I will triumph. All right. Those eyes. Those damn eyes, they scoured his very soul. Just like Millennia had. Then you are no lord. Red fell over his vision. You dare? That's right! The invader spread his arms out at either side, and the storm itself seemed to hearken to him. You heard me. You're no lord, you big bastard. His voice boomed out with a thunderous cry, crackling alongside a bolt of lightning from on high. Look what you've done. All these people. All those lives. It ends here. Now! Today. Never! A faint click of the tongue was his only warning. The blonde slid through his legs and slashed upward with a knife, rending his thigh. And something else. Pain! Howling his rage, Godric brought an axe down, but his target was already away, skipping away in the face of his fury. One leap. No more. Then he was upon him. Godric learned another ugly truth then. He couldn't hit him. Left and right, his prey swayed, rooted to the same spot, evading his axes with ease, until the counterattack finally came. One punch weakened him. Another brought him to a knee. A third sprawled him out, forcing him to flail in a frenzy, just to buy breathing room. This could not be. It must not be. A moment. He only needed a moment. Now! When the blonde braggart hopped away to avoid a slam, Godric was ready. In a fit, hacked down on his arm, severing it with a scream. The moment of horror it caused his adversary gave him all the time he needed and yet more. Cackling, he rounded on the dragon's corpse. Here, at last! His moment of crowning glory. Ah, truest of dragons. He slammed his mangled arm into the beast's throat, thrusting it deep. Lend me thy strength, the blonde squawked at him. The hell are you doing? Godric only laughed all the louder. Fool! He could have finished him then, while he was vulnerable. Instead, he recoiled as he ripped the beast free and bound its severed head to his will. Such strength! Within moments it was his puppet to do with as he pleased. Now the boy would burn. All of them! Burn! Them! Then the world! Forefathers, one and all. He thrust his new toy high, forcing it to belch napalm into the air. Bear witness! Movement flickered in his lower peripherals. A sneer twisted across his face. One of those wretched women, no doubt. Fearing for their friend, they struck at his flank while he was occupied. He barely felt the bite of an axe as it sank deep into his thigh. Her end was nigh. Godric rounded on her and brought his impromptu flamethrower to bear. For a singular wonderful moment, he watched fear dawn in the eyes of Nefeli Lu. Unfit to graft, this one, she would burn. But it was not to be. The blonde one barged in from the right and shouldered her aside at the last instant. He saved her, at the cost of himself, vanishing into the roaring inferno, swallowed without a sound. Godric crowed in triumph. At last! Victory! His emotions led to his death! A throaty cackle fled from his lips in a rush of dark glee as he heard the fool's companions cry out. Burn! All of them would burn. First him, then those fool maidens, then everyone. This would be the birthplace of his dynasty. His reign began now. Enough. Naruto emerged through the fire and flames unharmed, burning brighter than the Erdtree itself. Clad in a cloak of black and gold did he stride forth, uncaring as the heat kissed his skin. Blue eyes gazed up at him, red as blood. Steam boiled from his shoulders before his unhurried advance. A stately, leisurely walk while the inferno roiled over him, a pace that brought him well abreast of his new weapon. Godric could have retreated, could have pulled back, tried a new tactic, something, anything. And yet the look in those eyes rooted him where he stood. He saw something in them, something terribly, horribly familiar. An expression he'd never seen himself, yet heard tell of many a time in tales spoke hence. Here at last, the Lord's heart quailed in the face of that fearsome glare. They looked nothing alike, and yet he saw him all the same. Great Godfrey? Without so much as a word, golden hands closed around the dragon's jaw, tearing it and the head clean off at the base. Still grasping the dragon's severed visage, Naruto reared back with a snarl. So too did his impromptu flail, arcing over and up with savage intent. Godric had time enough to blink as its shadow fell over him. Oh, he managed. And then, pain. Naruto's arms blurred, and the dragon's head, heavy as it was, could not defy his momentum. It crashed down, slamming him into the floor. Dazed, Godric couldn't even think to rise. By the time he did, another slam hit, stunning him. Bones cracked, followed by a fourth. The strength bled from his body, a fifth now. Miraculously, his mind kept track of them all, even as he was beaten to a pulp. 6. Now he could feel himself slipping, and still the beating continued as his mind slipped further and further away. All the while his foe howled at him. This, bam, is not, wham, acceptable. Thruck! The ninth blow did Godric in. His world spiraled down into darkness. Chapter 4. I believe in freedom. The freedom to change, to become a better person than you were, and the freedom to kick someone's ass to kingdom come if they won't. I don't want to be a lord, but I won't let this world rot. Tilda, guided by grace. So this was a great rune. Naruto turned it end over end in his hands, regarding the ethereal construct with no small amount of confusion. Smaller than expected, perhaps, but rather light all things considered. He supposed that made sense. After all, it was made of, well, light. Blasted thing had come flying out Godric's chest after that last blow, practically landing right in his hands. All this chaos, all this death over something so tiny. Had everyone really gone mad for these simple shards? He wasn't sure whether he wanted to laugh or cry. Godric's mangled corpse lay sprawled at his feet, body crumbling into dust. Or was it runes? He wasn't sure how he should feel about this, any of it. He'd beaten the man to death in a fit of pique. He shouldn't have. He knew that. But he'd gone after Nefeli. There hadn't been any time for anything other than a lethal response. More than that, he was so very tired of everything trying to kill him and his... Was it so wrong to fight back for once in his life? To have been felled by a lowly tarnished? A low rasp at his feet sparked his temper anew. Such shame I cannot bear. Blue Eyes snapped down. You're still alive? You must be joking. How durable is this bastard? Not very, and not for long, judging by the way his body was falling apart. These were Godric's last gasps. Rani! Ricard! Radon! A hand with too many fingers grasped at Naruto's ankle, drawing a shudder from the blonde. Wild eyes glowered up at him, through him, gazing past to something he couldn't see. Melania! Michaela! Godwin! Those ugly bloodshot orbs fixed upon him, and yet for all that they still didn't see him. Greatest Godfrey, I only wanted to stand among your kin. To be like them. To be strong. Was that so wrong? Here at last, pity hit the whiskered warrior's heart. He blinked, finding himself somewhat taken aback. Who in blazes was Godfrey? And why did this lunatic think he was him? Was he truly that far gone? Still, it wasn't in him to disrespect the dying nor the dead. On a whim, he knelt down. A tan hand touched the demigod's dented forehead. Godric's crown had long since fallen to the wayside in their battle, leaving a tangled mat of hair behind. Now that looked at him, he realized just how old the so-called Lord of Stormvale truly was. Frail even. With his grafts crumbling, he was already a shell of his former self. Soon he wouldn't even be that. It would be wise to kill him now. Safe even. But he'd never been one for wisdom. Maybe not, he drawled. Still, the way you went about it was wrong. Plonking down beside him, he heaved a sigh. If you wanted others to respect you, you should have worked with them. Proved yourself to them. Not by sewing pieces of other people to yourself. His gaze swept past him to the buckling, stormy sky above. If you crush everyone who disagrees with you, if you steal the lives of others rather than build your own, it's a sad, lonely little world you'll live in. I knew a guy like that once. Didn't end well for him. Glassy eyes met his, already dimming over, still not truly seeing him in his final moments. Such wisdom, even in the face of a fallen foe. Thou truly art great Godfrey. I'm really not. Tutting softly, he closed his eyes. A hand rose behind his back. May you find peace in the next life, whatever it may be. Firm fingers gripped a kunai, just in case. He wouldn't be caught unawares by a sneak attack. Not again. Be reborn as a better person. I hope you have a proper family in your next life. One who doesn't mock you, hurt you, or torment you. The grafted made a pitiful noise. He never thought to hear the like from someone like him. Thou art too kind. A low rasp cut into his words. Far, far too kind. This world doesn't deserve someone like thee. In the end, there was no need to finish Godric off, for he accepted his death willingly. His crumbling sagged with a rasp of a gasp, eyes rolling in his head as he slumped into the dirt. I am the lord of all that is golden, he croaked out his final words as the clouds parted, fingers reaching for a single ray of sunlight in the sky. And one day we'll return together, all of us to our home, bathed in rays of gold. He expired with a low rattle and dissolved, leaving a bevy of runes behind. They hit Naruto, and he staggered, falling to a knee, but only for a moment. Sense reasserted itself as he stumbled upright, eyes stinging. Every cell in his body bristled with power, strength added to his own. It was alarming, intoxicating, terrifying. So these are the runes everyone's been on about. Not bad. Think I can see the appeal. Not now, Kurama. Silence swept over the ruined courtyard. Here and now a small, shuddering sigh escaped Naruto at the last. He knelt and hung his head. He'd done the right thing, hadn't he? Willfully taking a life made his heart feel heavy, even if it was necessary. Godric had undoubtedly been evil, but he'd not always been this way. Something must have happened to him to make him the twisted wreck of a man he'd fought. Yet he couldn't stop to mourn. Had to keep moving. The faintest gleam of burnished metal caught his eye. In hindsight, he wasn't sure why his eyes alighted upon Godric's fallen axe, only that they did. On a whim, he reached down and grabbed it. Much to his surprise, the towering armor manet shrank to fit his grasp. A cursory swing confirmed its weight, and lacking a holster for it, he sealed it away in a scroll. Remembrance acquired. He would remember the man Godric should have been, not the monster he'd become. Forgive me. Melina shimmered into existence at his side, jolting him out of his reverie. I've been testing you, to see whether or not grace does truly guide thee. There was something more to her words now. A hint of respect, perhaps, curiosity even, but he willfully ignored it to meet her gaze, whether you are fit to face the challenge that entails. And what do you think now? He quirked a brow, not liking the look in her eyes. Don't leave me in suspense. It seems my worries were unfounded. A faint smile bloomed on her grave face as she regarded. Torrent had your measure from the start, whereas I merely pretended for a time. Naruto frowned. Was that a roundabout way of saying she believed in him now? Felt like a bit of a backhanded compliment, but he'd take it. Anything to put this awful place behind him once and for all. Surely the rest of the lands between couldn't be so twisted as this. Surely not. Right? What do I do with this thing? He hefted Godric's rune her way. You need but take it to a divine tower to empower it. Sure, great, he mumbled, not relishing the idea of more wandering. I'll get right on that. Naruto turned his gaze back to the rune shimmering in his palm. Thought it felt weak. Are people really fighting over these? Alas, they are. The shards of the Elden Ring are not something to be trifled with lightly. Naruto turned his gaze back to the rune. It shone dully in his palms, alive, devoid of any benediction. He could sense it, feel it pulsing in his hands like the beating of a heart, almost as if it recognized him, as though it were aware. Perhaps some tiny fragment of its old owner lingered therein. People were fighting over these things, dying for them. Someone should take these runes, keep them safe. He could only think of one way to do that, mad though it was. Kurama realized what was about to happen a heartbeat before he acted. Don't you dare! Golden hands moved of their own accord to clench tight round Godric's rune. Then he reared back and slammed it into his chest. Melina cried out in surprise. Her cry went ignored. No sooner had she done so than the sigil flared to life, regaining its lost luster. His body bent double again, but with it came strength. Pain flared in his palms, and he pushed through, refusing to lose his grip. As he grit his teeth, the great rune carved itself into him, shimmering just above his flesh. Bright and vibrant it burned, brimming with the life it had lacked a moment ago. That's not possible. Through ringing ears, he distantly became aware of Melina's hoarse whisper. You didn't even take it to the tower. And Naruto turned to find everyone balking at him. He blinked. What? Why are you looking at me like that? 0.0. 0.0. What was he? Try though she might. Nephili Lu didn't know what to make of this this man before her. At first she'd taken him for a tarnished like her, though him to be little more than a warrior. But she'd never seen one of her kind perform half the feats she'd witnessed here today, let alone that ghastly stunt just now. Her second assumption had been to label him as a mage, but no, their kind were decidedly squishy. They couldn't kick a demigod around as he had. She had thought they would fight Godric together. Honor demanded, and yet she'd broken that code, rushed in, and such shame she felt. As she looked on, the tree sentinel woman barged forward and picked the blonde up, hoisting him into the air as one might a child. Hey! He failed his legs in the air, to no avail. What do you think you're doing? Put me down. That tickles. Trish most certainly did not. Instead, she gave him a once-over, craning her neck this way and that to get a better look at him. Realization dawned. She was searching for injuries. Nephili couldn't much blame her. They'd all seen him walk through the fire, and though it was easy to ignore pain in the head of battle, who knew what manner of wounds might lay beneath those singed clothes? I'm fine. Naruto kicked out, wriggling loose to land lightly upon the floor. He didn't touch me. It was too much. Yes, he did. Incredulity burst forth from Nephili in a stricken shout. He set you ablaze. How are you not a lump of charcoal? That got a baffled blink from the blonde braggart. I heal awful fast. She grabbed him by the collar. Not an excuse. Are you one of them, then? A demigod in disguise? Me? No, I'm not. His face darkened. Oh, for the love of... I'm fine. I'll prove it. As she looked on aghast, Naruto broke her grip with ease, reached down to his chest and seized a fistful of singed fabric there. Realization dawned like a coming storm, but it was too late. Surely he wouldn't. Of course he would. With a triumphant cry, the blonde tore it off, followed by the mesh wire shirt beneath. Revealed was lean muscle beneath, not a hint of flame or scorched flesh to be seen. Well, a distant part of her mused. Rather fit, this one, see? He bared his teeth at her in a smile fit for Huaralu himself. Fine, and so are you. So don't worry about it. Nephili opened her mouth to refute him. No, you don't. Azure eyes narrowed, rooting her where she stood. If the next words out of your mouth aren't high, and understand, I'm going to spank you. Nephili's face went white. He would too, she knew. He was that done with Stormvale. The horrors of this place had clearly disturbed him more than he let on, and he was clearly keen to be done with the castle and move on to greener pastures, as was she. Godric might be gone, but the winds were still tainted with his deeds here, still to threaten to spank her. She'd not been threatened with such before. I shall return to my father and tell him of your success. She managed a stiff bow, not trusting herself to be anything less than perfectly polite in this moment. She was furious with him, absolutely seething really, but to display that here would be a sign of weakness. And she was not weak. I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. Come on, it's fine. He tried to wave her down. Nobody got hurt. Not it isn't. She stalked back the way she'd come, eyes stinging with her shame. I must report to my father. May we meet again on the battlefield? 0.0. Such a strange girl. Nephili Lu. That one would bear watching. Still, with the wild warrior gone, Melina felt her path was clear. There is but one other thing I can do to offer you guidance. The maiden piped up to claim her tarnished's attention, then paused, weighing her words. I can take you to the Round Table Hold. Gathering place of tarnished champions, guided by grace. No. Her world shuddered to a halt. No? He had to go to the Round Table. He must if things were to progress. An audience with the two fingers was needed to grant him direction, if not one with the all-knowing. Not yet. Her champion patted his pocket, and the prize therein. I've got a promise to keep. Ah, the girl. An odd, sour taste welled up in her mouth. Yet more distractions. Would it never end? You wish to be Elden Lord, do you not? When he didn't answer, she bulled on, grasping his sleeve. Leave these distractions behind. She could well be dead by now. You cannot hope to save everyone. Her gaze strayed to where Godric lay, the real Godric, his mutilated corpse divested of all his once mighty grafts. Some are too far gone to save. It's almost funny, you know, the whiskered warrior growled at her. Someone told me the same thing. I'll tell her what I told you. His head butted against hers, giving her a glimpse of the resolve gleaming in those bright blue eyes. That sounds like a challenge, his piece said. He made for the exit. The tree sentinel, Trish, followed him, ever his silent shadow. Come on, let's go see if that merchant came. Fashion me a holster for this axe. Melina bridled. Fool of a tarnished. She'd known his kind before. Bright and hopeful, optimistic. The lands between sometimes received such visitors from beyond the fog, those unwilling to harden their hearts for the fire ahead, determined to save everyone they came across. This world would swallow him whole, just as it had them. But until such a day came, she had a duty to fulfill, now matter the cost. Their paths aligned for the time being. Nothing more. Nothing less. In the end, she followed him, just as before. 0.0. He returns triumphant. In truth, Roderica thought he wouldn't. Fear had festered in her heart like scarlet rot, tainting her every hope, her every dream, dashing any and all belief that he would return unharmed. Godric was a lord after all, a demigod, no matter how diluted his bloody might be. Surely a small party such as theirs wouldn't triumph against such a creature. Still, the blonde's familiar had lived up to its promise. The once desolate yard outside the shack now spattered with the remains of those who would have done her harm. Monsters and wolves, soldiers of Godric alike, none had survived the trampling delivered upon them by the toad. Her ward had held throughout, but against so many hands it would have surely shattered. And now there he was. That was undoubtedly her tarnished coming up the road. Wait, her? No, no, no! She mustn't think such things. Surely he had no need of one as weak as she. One look was all it took to recognize him. And yet for all that he was different. There, jutting between his shoulders, that was new. He'd not had an axe before. His chest shone faintly with a rune she did not recognize, a low light shining through the cloth best he wore. And wait, was that a dragon's corpse on his companion's steed? It was. Lesser than its greater cousins, perhaps, but a dragon was still very much a dragon. Did he intend to fashion a bit of armor out of it? There was nothing quite so sturdy as dragon hide. The tree sentinel granted her a grave nod, and she flinched in the face of that stern helm. "Hey, Gamakichi!" His voice drew her back to reality with a jolt. "Sorry to keep you waiting." Everything killed a few idiots. The giant amphibian rumbled in return. "You thought about reverse summoning. Might be able to get you home." Roderica felt her heart hitch. He was going to leave? After all this? Nah. Much to her relief, Naruto waved him off. "Don't think it'll work. You can try later, but I've got work to do here. Mind giving him a message for me?" The toad rumbled an affirmative. "Tell him, well," he looked away, scratching his cheek. "Tell them I'm fine. I've got a world to fix. I'll try to come back if I can, but I can't right now, you know. Ma and Pa will be angry. Not much I can do about that." The blonde shrugged. "I can't leave this place alone." Both master and familiar shared a long, lingering look. Eventually the latter nodded. The subsequent plume of smoke burst forth, heralding his departure. Roderica squinted into it to no avail. All that remained was a faint indent in the ground. She didn't have time to ponder it for long, because now the baffling blonde was making right for her. A tan hand stabbed forth, fishing into his pocket for something. "Here!" He knelt and pressed it into her hands before she could so much as think to blink. "I found this." "What's this? A keepsake?" Her fingers curled around it furtively, realized what it was and clenched down, almost afraid he'd take it away. "From my men? Oh, goodness me, I can't—" Sorrow welled up in her, threatening to drown her all over again. These were the last remnants of her men, her friends, all she had left of her homeland. Reduced to this. It was too much. Her breath failed her. Her eyes began to sting. A faint warbling noise fled from her lips as the misery welled up again. "They all believed in me." She doubled over, swallowing a sob. "They all thought I'd make something of myself. Me, who can't do anything!" And where did that belief get them? Gone and grafted by Godric. Some of them had been strong. They could have done great things, wonderful things, if only they hadn't been shackled to her. And yet she was the one to live? Little useless Roderkia, her only gift a useless one. How was that fair? The gods were cruel. Something shattered deep inside her. "It would have been better if I died." The words escaped her in a wail. "I should be dead! I should be—" Naruto moved. She was only vaguely aware of it in her peripherals. One moment he knelt before her, in the next his arms were wrapped tight around her back. His chin came down over her shoulder, even as he tucked her head into his chest. By Marika he cradled her like a child, like a brother would his sister. Roderica sobbed in his arms, an awful, ugly sound she was sure he hated. "I know it hurts." His voice was a low, soothing hum in her ear. "I know you want to scream. But those men and women went for you, knowing full well what might happen to them. Don't dishonor their sacrifice by throwing your life away." Those arms were gentle bands around her now, rocking her to and fro as she wept. "Don't cry. Remember them. Let those memories give you the strength to take action." Easy for him to say. He was strong. She was weak. She tried to struggle to no avail. His arms held tight. "I'm useless. What can I do?" "Plenty of things." He didn't release her, not for a moment. "I'm sure there's something in this world that only you can do." She wasn't sure how long he held her. Minutes? Hours? It felt like the former, but it could well have been the latter for all she knew. Eventually her tears ran dry, as all things do. Once they did, he nudged her faintly. Right, mustn't despair. It wouldn't be fair to them, or herself. A tiny, tremulous resolve hardened in her heart. "Then, I think I'll head to the Round Table Hold. Perhaps I'll find my purpose there." "Great!" He leaned back, holding her by the shoulders, smiling bright as ever. "That's where I'm headed next. We can go together." Roderica sniffled a little. He truly was too kind. Much, much too kind to someone as frail as she. A woman materialized beside him, looking most put out. Roderica squeaked, only to find herself summarily ignored, as the one-eyed maiden rounded upon Naruto. "Are you ready now?" Her champion nodded, but once. "Very well. Let my hand rest upon you for but a moment." 0.0. There was much of note in the Round Table. Too much, one might say. An endless series of quests to be taken, and requests needed fulfilled, to say nothing of its more eccentric guests. In truth, Naruto wasn't keen on any of it, from that wizened old crone to those giant two fingers for which she served as a mouthpiece. He cared even less for the other denizens. A blind man of faith who wouldn't stop talking about the Erd tree, a foppish knight who puffed himself up at the sight of him, and this all-knowing fellow who refused to even meet with him. Busy, he said. No time for upstarts, he'd said. To hell with that one. If he wanted to talk, he could come back begging. In the end, only 3 individuals truly stood out. The first was, of course, Roderica. She settled in nicely. Then came the strange case of a man named Hughes and a woman known only as Fia. 0.0. Hugh looked up as a shadow fell over his forge. You're a new face. He squinted at the newcomer with bleary eyes, this sorry sort clad in singed rags, with nothing but a headband to his name. No matter, it's all the same to me. Lay out your arms. Hefting his hammer and ignoring the spasm of pain it brought him, he set to himself to his dauntless task once more. Let's get smithing. But the blonde tarnished offered him no weapons nor ashes of war. Nay, his eyes travelled elsewhere. Didn't take much to guess what. Even a half-mad smith like him could tell. I see you've noticed the chains. His hammer fell anew, producing a hollow clank as it struck the sword set upon the anvil. They're nothing special. I'm a prisoner, and these are my chains. The newcomer might have made a face at that, but he wasn't looking at him, so focused was he upon his task. I'm trapped by the hold, undying smithing for you fools. That's all there is to it. Did you choose this? Hugh nearly missed a hammer stroke. Still, a grim smile settled over his scarred face. He'd thought this one mute. Seemed he could speak after all. Nah, don't read too much into it. Rise and fall. I've no grudge against you. Rise and fall. My being a prisoner is no fault of yours. To forge a weapon that would surpass them all. Besides, I don't mind smithing. To craft a blade that would make gods fall. Despite my differences, the weapons get stronger all the same. Strong enough to finally bring an end to things. Given time, he grunted when he struck the wrong angle, then corrected himself. Technique never fails. Besides, it helps me forget. Even now, he still couldn't quite suppress the sudden surge of dread he felt when he relived that awful memory. The sheer terror of her. A blonde brow quirked. Forget who? It's nothing. Let's get smithing. Credit where it was due, the boy knew when to let things be. I've got a dragon carcass with me. Any chance you could make armor out of that? Hugh paused. Could be. I'll have to see firsthand to know. I'll have Trish bring it up. They chatted for a time after that. Speaking of small things, the girl Roderica and the state of the Round Table. Against all odds, the boy, he still didn't know his name, not that it mattered, actually managed to wring a promise out of him to look after the lass, to help nourish her gift, for what it was worth. But in the end, words dried up, as they often do, and they went their separate ways. Hugh watched him go, shook his head, and returned. Just another tarnished. He'd seen a few with fire like that. They all burned themselves out sooner or later. This one would be no different. He'd seen the rune in his chest. So what if he'd grappled with Godric in all his grisly glory? Everyone knew that one was the runt of the litter. No, there were monsters out there, warriors and witches who made the grafted seem a child by comparison. Lunar Princess Rani. Praetor Rykard, General Radahn. The twin prodigies, Michaela and Melania. To say nothing of Morgott and Morg. There were others out there too, monsters even more dangerous than the demigods. Abominations that would turn a man's stomach and render resolve such as theirs so much jelly. Weapons would be needed to fell such horrors. And so he would smith them, until he fulfilled his promise, his curse. Perhaps then he would finally make an end of things. 0.0. Naruto stumbled into her room by sheer happenstance. He'd been touring the rooms trying to find one for himself and Trish when he found the open door. Oops! He withdrew just as quickly when he saw the dark-robed woman within. Sorry, didn't know anyone was in here. I'll just be going. Wait. A soft, almost ethereal voice called to him. Might I have a moment of your time? Reluctantly, he stepped back in. Greetings, great champion called by grace. The hooded woman inclined her head in a polite nod. I am Fia. As he looked on, she tugged down her hood, exposing a pale face and bright eyes, framed by a gentle curtain of flaxen gold hair. A pleasure to meet thee. Same, he waved. I'm guessing you live here, same as the others? In a sense. She favoured him with a rueful smile. Circumstances have compelled my stay at the Round Table Hold. He recalled the baleful look Melina had given him before she'd all but dragged him here. Circumstances right, I know that feeling. Great champion, would you allow me to hold you, but briefly? When he didn't answer, she hastened to explain, perhaps fearing his wrath. Perhaps you could share some of your lively vigor and stout-heartedness. Doing so will grant me the warmth of a champion, and you, I'm sure, will receive a Baldachin's blessing. Confusion flared in him. Another word he didn't understand. Balder what now? Do you think it vulgar, perhaps? The maiden in black tilted her head. Where I come from, it is a sacred act. Let me be clear here. You, he pointed to her, want to give me, to himself now, a hug? Just like that. After all he'd been through since finding himself here, it sounded kinda nice, actually. What the hell? Fine. My thanks, great champion. A rare seed of anxiety bloomed in him. So do I come to you, or... Fear opened her arms wide and somehow managed to beckon him with her expression alone. Flickering firelight sent shadows dancing across her face, even as his own burned in embarrassment. It was just a hug. Nothing to get excited about. After all, it wasn't as if they were doing that or anything. Nope, not a chance. Warily, he crouched forward. Gentle arms enfolded him tenderly as a lover's might and pulled him into her bosom. Her breath was a thread in his ear. You are very warm. Huh. Felt pretty nice, this. Is there anything you wish to unburden yourself of while I hold you? A rueful smile touched whiskered cheeks. What are you, a therapist or something? I do not know what that word means. She didn't flinch at his tone. I merely wish to see you comfortable. He felt a faint tug on his chakra as she spoke. Barely perceptible. For him it was a drop in the ocean. In the same instant, he heard Fear gasp. Something flickered in his chest near the great rune he'd taken into himself. A faint feeling. A spark of fleeting strength, finite, yet waiting for him to call on at his leisure. Such strength! She coughed once, then continued. What you felt light up inside of you was a Baldachin's blessing. Though it is but a fleeting thing, I'm afraid. Come back to me should you require another. I will take you in my arms as often as you need. He stood quickly. She smiled after him. Then good day to you, my dear. Naruto beat a hasty retreat as only a shinobi could. 0.0, 0.0. There was something about the table. He saw it as he left Fia's room behind him. That large shard of grace hanging above its surface. It called to his eyes. His senses. Tarnished? Distantly he heard Melina call out to him. Trish made a noise of confusion. He paid them no heed. Without thought, Naruto vaulted the edge, skirted the many weapons lying there, and reached out for it. He wasn't sure what he was expecting. The moment his fingers brushed it, everything went awry. The ring on his hand pulsed. He couldn't think of any other word for it. His very fingers felt afire as though it were burning from the inside out. Nay, a tiny faint whisper hissed in the back of his head. Not yet, not here. There's work to be done. He touched it, that little speck of light, and the world shifted. Whoa! Naruto kicked back out of habit and realized too late where he'd landed. Gone were the rolling green hills and giant golden tree. In its place he found naught but dead wastes, lashing wing, and that is a big dragon. Naruto looked up. The dragon looked down, rooted where it lay by strange growth seeping from the ground. Its great scaly snout somehow managed to convey surprise despite its great girth. It was trapped, just laying there in the rot. Absolutely massive, too, large enough to give Kurama a run for his money. Neither man nor beast moved, for fear of breaking the impasse. Naruto sneezed and the tableau shattered with a roar. Ah! My ears! He clamped both hands over his head. As such, he had an awful moment to see the flames building in the back of the beast's throat. Flames that guttered out with a dull whine as a rather put-out Kurama reared up around him and stomped a golden paw upon its head. The moment of sheer realization made his brush with death all the more with it. Bad lizard! Calm down! He pinned it with a hiss. I ain't here to fight ya. It glowered at him, with eyes larger than his head. Pity bloomed anew. I get it. You're stuck, ain't ya? The great dragon made a discontented noise akin to a growl. Oi! He swatted it on the snout with Kurama's arm, drawing an angry cry. Stay put. Not that you have much choice in the matter. It snarled and made to bite him. Kidding. I'm kidding. Sheesh, no one has a sense of humor here. Withdrawing the cloak, He moved to regard one of the coral-like growth near the beast's claws and considered it. Whatever this foul gunk was, it had well and truly entrapped the dragon, then calcified over his beleaguered body. Poor beast probably got caught while it was sleeping. Didn't look like it had moved in an age. How weak it must be. Still, that was no excuse to leave it here, trapped. It might even appreciate its freedom. Were those smaller dragons in the distance? Lumbering his way, drawn by the dragon's scream? Best deal with this quickly, then. Clenched knuckles swung down and bounced off. His fists stung, leaving him to recoil with a hiss. He swung down again. On the second strike, it cracked, if only just. The third shattered it completely, leaving his hand screaming. Right, screw this. Using the clones. With a plume of smoke, his one-man army set to their task with a will. Fists swung. Jutsu flashed out. From there, it was the work of several minutes to extricate the trapped worm. Even then, he and his clones were forced to crawl all over its scales and chisel through some less than pleasant places to free it fully, much to the beast's manifest displeasure. Tada! He stepped back, arms spread wide. You're free! The beast glared at him, struggled to rise, faltered. Oh, you haven't moved for a while, have you? Guess you're pretty weak. It shimmered into fog and light that shrunk down, assuming a smaller form. Compact, humanoid. Wait, what? Human what now? As the light dimmed, he found himself gazing upon a woman. Couldn't be anything less. Stark silver eyes shone out of a scarred face framed by a curtain of grey hair gone nearly white, through which two horns jutted. Yet for all that, this new form of hers appeared to be rather young, barely 30 at a stretch. Clad in little more than a tattered white shift, she swayed on her heels, yet when he went to her, she bared her teeth, human teeth at him, in a feral hiss. Mine body? Quivering arms hugged close to herself, and he glimpsed the shimmer of scales upon them. Mine limbs? Another shiver, not of weakness, but rage. You touched all of it. Heat his face as he scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that, but it was the only way to get you out. You got a name? She absolutely hissed at him. My name is Greyroll. You knave. Huh, he snickered. So dragon girls are a thing here. Neat ack. Clenched knuckles crashed into his chin at speed. He was still laughing when he hit a tree. Such was his introduction to Kaled. Chapter 5. Why would you show such kindness to me? Let me answer your question with another question. Why not? You are very kind. Would you perhaps grant me the honor of your name? Tilda. Blondes and broken things. Fool of a tarnished. Melina kicked out at a nearby table with a shriek and sent it flying, books and candles all. Near the door, Ensha rewarded her with a flat look for her tantrum. He went summarily ignored. As well he should. Gideon's man could glare at her all day for all she cared. His ire would avail him not a jot. For you see, her anger was not directed his way. She almost wished it were. Things would be so much simpler. My lady? Corin dared to peek round the corner. Are you all right? I heard a crash. Melina glared bloody red daggers at the prophet and he withdrew. Good man. Wise man. He knew not to mess with an angry woman. Unlike some, never in her short life had she been so singularly frustrated by a single being, nay, utterly confounded by one man, a single soul such as this. Yet here she stood, seething like some churlish child. It galled her to no end. Bad enough that Naruto paid little heed to suggestion or such. Bad enough that he seemed content to wander without a worry in the world. Bad enough that he'd proven himself wholly incapable of doing anything the easy way. But this was too far, even for her. Artrish was positively aggrieved at his abrupt disappearance, and Roderica feared him dead. He was not, of course. Even now their pact persisted. She could sense him, which was precisely what alarmed her so. By the Erd Tree, what was he doing in Kaled? At first she'd thought he was off seek General Radahn, but no, he was puttering about the wilds with a dragon of all things. It rankled her to no end. 'Twould be a simple matter to decorporealize herself and go herring after him, but even that would take time. Days, perhaps, to track him down. She could hardly teleport to his side at such a distance after all. Even if she could, she would not be able to drag that tree sentinel after her so easily, let alone the spirit tuner. Their place was at the round table hold, she reasoned, out of sight, out of mind. Wasn't it? Her Tarnished did not want for distractions, and as such she would endeavour to keep him on track. She had been created with a singular task in mind, nothing more. She knew her purpose, her goal. Clearly this Tarnished did not know his. Someone would have to beat it into his head, and 'twould not be her. He could not save everyone and everything. He had merely been lucky thus far. One could only hope Khaled would teach him that lesson. Melina prayed it would. She shuddered to think what his plans might be. Who knew what manner of depravity he was getting up to without her guidance? 0.0. Lech. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Greyroll pursed her lips and glared at his back. Thou art a knave. That's nice. All she received was a half-hearted wave for her efforts. You're pretty too, she hissed. Do not ignore me, you fiend. He still didn't answer her, of course, the absolute fiend. Instead, he kept right on marching, forcing her to follow him or risk being left behind. Left to fend for herself in her weakened state. As she knew such would be a death sentence. She was the mother of dragons, and yet, in this current fleshy form, her own children scarcely knew her. They did not recognize their matriarch. To linger in her barrow now would surely spell her doom. They would have to fend for themselves for a time until she regained her strength. Her true form was large and powerful indeed, but she'd not moved for how long? Greyroll missed a step. The answer escaped her, and the dragoness realized with a bleat of panic that she couldn't recall how long. Many moons had passed since she first found herself entrapped by that wicked witch's rot. A very long time indeed, then. Accursed demigod. Her barrow had been both bountiful and peaceful before she came along. How many children did she lose when that foul flower first bloomed? How many eggs had perished in clutches hence? More than she cared to count. Wretched Melania. She would suffer when they met again. In the meantime, she would follow this one. Like her kin, Lanciax, before her. She would wear this human guise for a time, but only that. A short while. Little more. She would stay with this one until her strength was recovered and not a moment more. She would not be tricked. She would not be beguiled into falling for a mere mortal as her daughter had with that fool Vike. Feelings had led Lanciax astray, as all humans oft did. Where had love led her? Nowhere. To madness and despair. She would not succumb to such. You know, if you keep glaring at me like that, you're gonna go blind. Grr. 'Twasn't her fault. She could not feel free without her wings and tail. She dare not conjure them in this fleshy guise for fear of falling over outright. Merely holding this form at all threatened to exhaust her, but she would not consent to ride the fiend's horse. She was a proud warrior. She had no need of some simple steed. Not she. Come on now. Again his voice rose to mock her for her failure. You're falling behind. Keep up. He clapped his hands. Chop, chop. A trickle of fire escaped her clenched teeth. Whose fault is that? Thy legs are too long. Thou walketh too fast. And you complain too much, came the answering titter. Try smiling a little, Greyroll huffed. Who was he to talk to her as such? She was the mother of dragons. He was just a squishy mortal, a mere Tarnished. 'Twas his fault she was in this mess. And really, where was he leading her? He didn't seem to know himself. Down, down, down they went, deeper into the Khalid wilds, pausing at odd intervals but never lingering in one place for long. More than once they stumbled upon embattled soldiers facing horrid abominations. The latter he put to the torch, the former he spared. Still he did not stop, even to bask in air thanks. After some time his goal became apparent to her eyes, if only partially. He was in search of something, or perhaps someone, though she knew neither what nor who. Why are we wandering, Lech? Eventually she asked him. This pointless posturing avails you naught. All right, I tried. Here at last, Naruto finally looked over his shoulder, betraying some irritation. Would you stop calling me a lech? I ain't done a thing to you. He squinted back at her, briefly resembling the mighty beast he housed within. If anything, been perfectly pleasant. Greyroll's face flamed even as her horns twitched. You saw every inch of mine body. You touched? Lady, he countered, with all the exasperation of a parent explaining something to a small child. I got you out that rot. If not for me, you'd still be lying there, wasting away. Cut me some slack. Humph, slack, he said. She crossed both arms before her bosom. I would have freed myself eventually. Ho? Is that so? His tone told her she'd had blundered into an altogether trap, but she, for the life of her, she couldn't see where. Well, if you say so. Was that his angle? Did he think to impress her with his prowess as dragons had before? I will not mate with thee, if that is thine desire. Wasn't asking you to. His right eye began to twitch. You know, I thought a dragon turning into a human would be pretty cool and all, but you're starting to kill the appeal. Then seek Lanciax, if I offend you so. She bared her fangs in a sneer. But be warned, mine daughter is far less kind than I. It was not her kin's fault. Vike's descent into madness after touching the frenzied flame had left little Lanciax quite distraught. Even now she sought a way to cure her beloved dragon knight. Silly girl. The only cure for the Three Fingers' touch was death. Still a better fate than that of poor Fortisax. Naruto scoffed. If this is kind, I'd hate to see a pissed-off dragon. He paused suddenly, touching a hand to his head. She frowned. Does something ail thee? Not you. He waved a hand half-heartedly her way. It this place. There's so much pain in this place. He touched a hand to his temple, gritting his teeth. So many emotions. Negativity in spaces. Those eyes drifted shut, paying her little head. Gotta fix this place. Have to fix it. Something twitched in the worm's heart. It felt like pity. You are but one man. You can only do so much. Have you not seen the clones I've been sending out? Mere copies. She'd seen one vanish with a single hit. They will avail thee naught. Where are you looking now? Because his eyes had snapped open suddenly and his head whipped around, startling her terribly. But those wild blue orbs weren't fixed on her. They pivoted, regarding the distant spire of a crumbling church. Narrowed. Then he was off, shooting forth like an arrow loosed from a bow. All that remained was a fading plume of dust. Greyroll balked. Wait! She stumbled after him, cursing her human legs all the while. I say wait! He kept running. Wait at once, blast thee! 0.0, 0.0. There was so much to fix here in the Kaled Wilds. Too much for one man, certainly. It would take an army to undo the damage here. The longer Naruto wandered, the more certain he became of this immutable thought, and in time, thought became fact. And the more he wandered, the more clones he'd sent out, desperate to stem the side of rot and all the pain he felt here. Kill the monsters, save the soldiers, fix what he could, smack down those who wouldn't listen. Unfortunately, in doing so, he'd made a bit of a blunder. One he'd realized too late to correct. With so many perspectives, dozens easily taking in so much as once, his mind was beginning to fray. He experienced it all, every moment of pain, every death, every twisted sight. Creating more to compensate for the deaths of the first wave only made it worse. Yet still he persisted. He had to. He must. If don't, who will? You need to stop. It's only been a day, and already you're reaching your limit. If you don't rest soon, you'll break. Oddly enough, he felt the ring on his finger pulse in agreement. Fine, he slurred. Just a little longer. Limgrave might have had a rotten ruler in the form of Godric, but at least the landscape itself wasn't actively rotting. Not like this place. How could he rest when everything around him was suffering? His senses twisted again, pinpointing another pulse of pain. Numbly, he followed it. There. To the east, coming from that crumbling church on the hill, he sensed life. Harmless human life. Not mindless or mad like those wild beasts, nor those twisted knights shambling through the swamps. To cut him down like those soldiers. Faint, flickering, fading like a dying flame. Really, the wilds were the worst. Everything bar a certain surly dragon girl wanted to kill him. As he crept closer to the ruined stone edifice, he realized it wasn't quite as abandoned as he'd first surmised. Closer inspection revealed a pair of ghastly guards manning the entrance, spears in hand. They were even more monstrous than those giant hounds. A small sigh escaped him as he rolled up his sleeves. Blue eyes flashed gold. Well, he grumbled, at least they ain't ghosts. The pests did not die well. 0.0, the rot burned. It vibrated in Millicent's veins, seethed in her soul, fouled her very flesh. Every breath was an agony. The very act of keeping her eyes opened threatened to drain what little life she had left. Even her mind, her last bastion of refuge, was not spared. Whispers hunted her every waking moment like so many buzzing flies, stealing away even the petty semblance of peace that madness might offer. Truly, if there was suffering worse than this, she did not wish to experience it. Worse, she couldn't die, not truly, not as she wished. The rot prevented even her own demise, for now. It would not grant her the destined death she sought, no matter how much she wished for it. She could only lay and waste away. With each passing hour, she felt herself slip further into the abyss. How it burned, how it stung. It would be so easy to give in to the whispers, to simply let the rot out and bloom until nothing remained. Accursed rot? Why did it have to be her? What had she done to deserve this? Fate denied her even the memory if it. Was it not enough that she'd severed her own arm? How much more would this foul taint take from her? And why was it dark all of a sudden? Against her better judgment, Millicent looked up. Bright blue eyes beamed back at her, set within a whiskered face framed by unruly blonde hair. Those same cheeks dimpled in a sunny smile, one that was decidedly offset by his haggard appearance. "Hi, Tilda," the young man chirruped happily. "You all right there?" "All right." Her temper stirred and the rot in her rose with hit. "All right? Of course she wasn't. No, don't take the bait." No doubt this was another figment of her addled imagination. Another spectre come to torment her for failures she could no longer remember. Had it chosen the guise of hope this time? She knew not this stranger. Millicent hung her head, lacking the energy to even shoo him away. "Please," she croaked, "leave me. You're just another hallucination. I shan't be tempted." She would not give in to the rot. She knew not why, only that she shouldn't. She mustn't. The tiny core that was her soul, which had forgotten so much, still remembered the warning she had given her even now. Sweet though the whispers were, she knew she must never heed them. "Do not bloom, little Millicent. You mustn't bloom. Nay, never bloom." Huh? A low chortle reached her ears, cutting into the memory. Hallucination? That's a new one. Never been called that before. A spark of irritation seethed within the rot. With it came a tiny surge of strength. "What? Still here?" A weak growl tore free from her. "Begone with you. You know, you're being pretty rude." Much to her chagrin, the hallucination knelt before her. "I'm just trying to help." Did he not understand? Her lips curled in a pained grimace. "I cannot be helped." He leaned back on his haunches. "I disagree, Tild." Still he persisted. She was not having this conversation. She would not speak to this golden ghost. And yet he seemed determined to drag it from her regardless. Had she control of her legs, she would have simply walked away from him. As she was now, she could only turn her head to the side and sulk. Was this to be her end, then? Tormented by the madness. "There you are. Now what?" Millicent could no longer raise her head. That brief burst of strength had faded, taking what little she had left. But she heard the voice, saw the pair of pale, almost grey feet pad into her field of vision. Yet another figment of her imagination come home to roost. 'Twas a woman, and this one had left her ankles exposed. How unseemly. "Oh, hey." Distantly she heard the blonde spectre speak. "You caught up? Good. Think you can help me with this?" The woman scoffed, sniffed, then recoiled with a yelp. "Impossible." Her lower lip curled with disgust. "She's infected by the rot. I would not touch her for all the gold in the lands between. I shan't be entrapped again." Millicent heard the man sigh. "Grey, I shall not," she snapped. "And neither should you. Keep away from her." Remarkably sensible for a figment of her imagination, this. She's right. Leave me be. Nope. 2 fingers flitted out to flick her forehead. Little more than a poke. And yet, Millicent jolted upright, gasping in surprise. Her body screamed in protest at the sudden movement, but she forced her eyes open once more, if only to regard the baffling blonde looming over her. A trembling hand rose to touch her forehead. She'd felt that. Pain! Minor, perhaps, but she'd felt him touch her. Hallucinations could not do such. "You're real?" "No, it matters." Her foggy vision cleared, if only for a moment to see them. "If you are wise, you will leave immediately." The stump of her right arm pulsed painfully, and she gripped it with a gasp, strangling a whimper of pain in her throat. "My flesh writhes with scarlet rot. It is more than a simple disease. It is a curse, not to be meddled with by man." There, she'd said her piece. Real or not, this one would wish nothing to do with her now. To touch her would put him at risk of infection, agonizing sickness, and finally, certain death. She tried to quell the tiny pang of sorrow that followed. It had been nice to speak with someone, if only in passing. But it could never be. Only those putrid pests loved the rot. All else should give her a wide berth. She closed her eyes and let herself drift, certain that boorish blonde braggart would be well and truly gone when she opened them again. The woman gave an annoyed in response to a question Millicent hadn't heard. "Do what you will. I'll have no part in this." The blonde laughed. "Such a grumpy dragon. Mortal, I will bite thee. Promises, promises." Wait. Slim arms encircled Millicent's waist. Why was she moving? Rising into the air? Pushing away the cobwebs from her thoughts, she forced her eyes open once more. The stranger had indeed walked away, for all of an instant. With her eyes closed, she'd not seen him spin around, swept both arms under her, and oh dear. Millicent realised what must have transpired and squeaked, a sharp, unladylike sound she had made only once before. "Cease!" she cried out. "Why are you carrying me like some princess? You'll be infected with the rot." "Oh, is that what this is?" His smile shone down at her, brighter than the Erd tree itself. The rot in her tried to touch him, and was summarily repelled. "Ha! Tickles." Tickles? Did he have resistance to it? No matter. It wouldn't last. It never did. Sometimes the rot took one swiftly. At other times, slowly, as it had her. In the end, his fate would be no different than those of the clean rot knights who had served millennia. Who was Melania? No. Focus! Leave go of me! She kicked out feebly against his chest, feeling ever bit a child. "What art thou doing? This is no place to die." He looked down at her, heedless of the veins scrawling against his flesh. "I'm taking you somewhere safe." A tiny, bitter laugh burst out of her. "This is Caelid. 'Tis not safe anywhere." She was not prepared for the growl that followed. "Then I'll make it safe." Something in those words, nay, the noble presence behind them, stirred her spirit. A seed of something sprouted in her. Almost felt like hope. Even now she could feel the rot writhing in her, potent as ever. It wanted in, to corrode and infect the stubborn young man who even now held her. It sought him as it had sought all others around, seeking another victim, a second means of infection. Tethers of death and dismay tried to coil around him as they had all before. And yet still he stood tall. "Don't worry." Mistaking her silence for confusion, the whiskered warrior touched her forehead with his chin. "If I can grow back an eye, I'm pretty sure I can to the same for an arm, maybe." Hope flowered in Millicent's heart and withered thrice as fast. What madness did he speak of? One could not simply restore an arm, not even the sorcerers of the academy. Maybe he was a hallucination after all. This could merely be a mad fever dream brought on by the rot. Growing back an arm? Only a fool would say such. A fool among fools indeed, the greatest fool of them all. The dragon woman snorted behind him. "Foolish boy." Naruto clicked his tongue at her. Angsty dragon. "Go stand in the corner if you're going to keep bitching at me." The ghost of a smile touched Millicent's lips despite herself. So he had a bit of spine after all. "You dare!" Dare he did indeed, because he laughed and laid Millicent down against a nearby headstone. She scarcely had the strength to squint when his body blazed gold. A pitiful noise escaped her lips as she averted her eyes, so bright. If he'd shimmered before, then now he was well and truly the sun. Merely laying in his presence made her aching body feel warm. As she squinted on, the blonde rubbed his palms together. "Might want to clench your teeth, miss?" "Millicent," she whimpered, dreading what was to come. "My name is Millicent. Naruto. Nice to meet ya. Think happy thoughts?" She bridled but a little as the whiskered one laid his right hand on her shoulder, lacking the strength to do anything else. Her spirit stilled as he reached out with the other to grip her remaining hand. Rough fingers, worn by war, threaded against hers, bringing a faint flush to her pale face. To touch her twice now without even commencing courtship. How very vulgar. He'd not even written her a single letter. Terribly forward. "I do not see the point in these." Her words peaked into a wild bleat of pain as the mangled stump of her shoulder burned with unseen heat. Something flowed down her ruined arm, burning hotter than the rot ever had. Her back arched, lips parting in a wordless scream. Every cell in her body burned. In moments she found herself doubling over, weeping, wailing, eyes burning with tears. "Stop!" she gasped out. "It hurts. I beg of thee. Cease! Please!" He listened at once, bless his simple soul, leaving her wasted and gasping for air. "Something's resisting me." That tan face stood creased in a scowl. "Probably that rot thing you're talking about." Still it worked a little. Millicent looked down and balked. There was a stub there. half her arm jutting out through her tied and tattered sleeve, just short of her elbow. Her eyes bulged. "What are you—" "Someone who wants to help you." His smile was telling. "Does it matter?" She opened her mouth to argue, then deferred. "No, I suppose not." On a whim, she made a reckless decision. Her days were numbered. She would rather die a warrior than a worthless wretch. She had been a warrior once. She was certain of that. She remembered the grief she'd felt as she severed her sword arm, that vain attempt to stop the rot in its early days, before her sisters cast her aside. This was a chance she would not let slip by. "Finish it," she rasped. His brow shot up. "You sure? It's gonna hurt. Please, I beg of thee. Let me die as I lived." She raised her gaze, hoping to convey her intent with a steady look as much as words. "With both arms. All right, but nobody's gonna die on my watch." She watched him like a hawk as he rubbed his palms together. That odd mark on his right hand seemed to shimmer softly in the low light. This time, she thought herself ready for it. She was not. He laid both hands on her, exhaled softly, spoke something under his breath, and then, "Pain!" Millicent cried out, gritting her teeth as bone and sinew erupted from the fouled flesh of her arm. A far cry from before, perhaps, but pain nevertheless. She gripped at him with her good hand. "Sorry," she heard him mutter over her cries. "Just hang on a little longer. I've almost got it. There." Sobbing, hiccuping, she pushed against him, instinctively seeking comfort. He held her, patted her head, hummed a little, and finally it was done. Naruto laid her down to rest upon a softer patch of ground, and it was then that she saw it, felt it, sensed it. Bleary eyes blinked, gazing upon the pale expanse of her new limb. It twitched and trembled, fitfully at first as she exerted her will upon it. Move! It had to move. This would all be for nothing if she couldn't make it move. Tremulous fingers curled into a fist. Millicent released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Just like that, he'd regrown her lost limb. A healthy arm, free of the rigorous rot that had once pervaded it, but not for long. Even now it ached and itched as the foul disease sought to eat away at it once again. Her spirits fell at the sensation. She'd feared as much. The reprieve he'd granted her was temporary at best. "You have my thanks, but the rot still writhes within me. I beg you, keep your distance." "Ain't done yet." "What?" "I beg your pardon, good sir." Blinking through teary eyes, her gaze fixed on his chest, noting the faint shimmer beneath his ratted jacket. Her mouth went dry as she sensed the faint pulse of power within. The ghost of an old memory stirred within her, indistinct, faded by time, but prevalent nonetheless. She'd seen such a thing once before. "But where? Is that a great rune?" "Yep." He smacked his lips and made her comfortable once more. "Got it from a guy named Godric the Graffid." Memories came rushing back. He'd slain him then. No mere tarnished was this. Perhaps this was the one to be accepted by the Erd Tree, destined to restore the broken Elden Ring, to make what was once fractured whole again. She looked up at him, and for a moment she saw something in him, a glimpse of the future that might yet come to pass. "Long live the new Elden Lord." "All right," her savior hummed. "Now that we've got your arm sorted, let me try a different approach this time." Millicent betrayed herself with a whimper. "I'm not ready." The knight, for Millicent could see this proud stubborn sod as nothing less, seemed to take offense at that. "Don't worry, it won't hurt this time." He hooked a finger in hers. "I promise." "Truly?" Her voice hitched. The look he gave her was pure steel. "I'm gonna fix you everything." Millicent shook her head. She could just imagine him, running about trying to help everyone. It was admirable and unbearably naive. She would appreciate the return of her arm, short-lived though her life was. It was a boon she'd not thought to hope for, but he'd granted it to her. To hope for anything else would surely be folly. Wouldn't it? "You've done enough," he scoffed. "Who decided that?" "No, wait! I haven't prepared my Elfar." She bit her fist to stifle a gasp. "Oh." Rather than set to work on her arm and regrow the severed stump as he'd tried before, he went to the work on the rest of her, starting with her chest. She tensed at once, expecting pain. There was none. By contrast, this was warm. It felt quite nice, actually. Very nice. Her body bucked and her arms betrayed her, hooking behind his neck. As if she'd been placed in a warm bath and left to simmer, so too did she feel the aches and pains of her body melt away. Little mewling gasps fled from her lips as she buckled against him, head buried into his shoulder, holding on for fear life. Warm. so very warm. She could feel that strange energy of his working its way through her, flowing like a warm river. To let go now was to drown. Little fireworks burst beneath her skin, ripping the rot asunder faster than it regenerate. Beating it back, tamping it down, containing it, sealing it. Do you have to make those sounds? She looked up to find his face gone red, red as her hair. It's kinda distracting. Forgive me. Another moan escaped her as her head tilted back. I can't stop. It was as if he were bringing back every sensation she'd ever lost all at once, every feeling that had been dulled and blunted by the rot. In her fevered state, it proved too much. Far, far too much. She tried to endure, to keep her self-consciousness as that strange red energy hammered its way into her, but she just couldn't. She hit her breaking point and plummeted over the edge with a sharp cry. Utter sensory overload, complete and total. Millicent couldn't take it any longer. Shamefully, she passed out before Naruto could finish mending her body. And everything changed. Chapter 6. You are a good man, Rotqueller. I do not deny this. But this land has been the ruin of many good men. Godwyn the Golden, General Radahn, Miquella the Unalloyed. Know you these names? Demigods all they were, each fair of heart and kind of soul. Each of them thought to change the world. Each of them raged against what they saw as injustice. Now they all suffer a fate worse than destined death. What will yours be, I wonder? Tilda a dragon, looking to the future. Does she still slumber? Looks like it. Let me check. At Grey Rolls, prodding Naruto crept over to Millicent, where she lay against Torrent's saddlebags. She dozed on, blissfully unaware of his presence. He pressed a finger into the slumbering woman's pale cheek. The redhead made a tiny noise of protest and batted ineffectually at his hand to no avail. On a whim, he jabbed her again, to which she wrinkled her nose with a whine but didn't wake. Adorable. The thought didn't feel odd to him in the least. She looked more at peace now than she'd ever been. Good for her. She deserved some rest. If Torrent at all minded the extra weight, he wasn't complaining. Quite the contrary. He seemed rather content to canter about at a leisurely pace behind them, well away from the monsters of Caelid. A few sweet raisins had done wonders to settle his nerves amidst the giant beasts, and he'd been sure to ply Melina's friend with them since. It was the least he could do. He didn't know the first thing about horseback riding, but that was no reason not to make use of Torrent, no? Good boy, he murmured, stroking the horned horse's head. You're doing great. Let me know if she wakes up. His faithful steed nosed his hand and snorted once. Naruto beamed. I'll take that as a yes, Tild. Greyroll made an irritated noise. She'd been sullen ever since he put her in the corner. Do all humans sleep this long? They do when they're exhausted. He glanced her way with a quelling look. Be nice. She's been out for an entire day now, the poor thing. Probably going to be starving when she wakes up. That was putting it lightly. He'd managed to burn most of the rot, as Millicent called it, out her system. What traces remained wouldn't do her any lasting harm so long as he kept an eye on her. If her condition worsened again, he'd just have to repeat the process. Right, a cheeky little voice muttered in the back of his head. The process. Let's call it that. Definitely didn't do anything lewd. Her flushed face as she writhed in his lap, back arching, tiny cries escaping her lips, Gar. Don't go there. Unbidden, his gaze sought Greyroll once more. You've been awfully quiet since yesterday. She looked away, folding both arms before her bosom. I have nothing to say. Not gonna call me a lech again? Her shoulders twitched. No. Not even a knave? Nay. You really that afraid of me? He wriggled his fingers at her as Jiraiya had once done to him long ago. Or maybe it's my hands. She bared her fangs in turn. Keep thy plans to thine self. I need no healing. Oh! That was it. He bit down on the laughter that threatened to bubble EUP. It was just a joke, oi. An uncomfortable silence stretched between the two of them as they trudged deeper into the depths. No soldiers barred their path. No monsters emerged to devour them whole. It was almost enough to make a man hope, it was. But he knew better. He hadn't cleared out Caelid. He'd only beaten back the tide. The rot would return and birth more abominations. He'd fight them all with his clones. But how did one cure the land? For all his strength and skill, Naruto didn't know how. Healing a person was one thing, but this was half a continent. Millicent as rot had fought him every step of the way. Doing the same with the land itself? Why did you do it? He blinked, nonplussed at Greyroll's sudden inquiry. Didn't quite catch that. You went to such lengths to help her, a perfect stranger. Those cat-like eyes glared at him beneath her bangs. You even risked infection with her rot. Naruto stood his ground and set his jaw, not liking her tone. What of it? Her eyes flashed. I would know why, Rot Queller. That got a blink out of him. Rot what now? Rot Queller, the mother of dragons repeated plainly. In my tongue it would mean, he who quells the rot. Once I could have dismissed as a fluke, but twice? She sniffed. You have a gift. That girl didn't have much time left. Her organs were breaking down. If not for thee, she'd be a puddle of scarlet rot by now. A shiver stole over him. Had he really cut it that close? I don't need a reason to help people. Her slitted eyes narrowed. You have no ulterior motives? None at all? You could leverage your aid over the female, make her your concubine, your slave. She seems the sort to honor her debts, to the exclusion of all else. Most would use that against her. Why would I do that? Slim shoulders rose and fell in a shrug. It is the way of these lands. Always has been. Naruto clicked his tongue and swallowed his gorge. If you need a reason to help someone who's hurting, there's something wrong with you. You're a noble sort, like that general. Admirable, but misguided. Her gaze flitted out to a castle in the distance, and the dunes of sand beyond. This world will eat you alive if you let it. Best harden yourself while you can before it's too late. He grinned right back, all steely determination. It can try. It will not try. It will succeed. She yanked on Torrance's reins, and the somberness of her tones stuck with him. The lands between has seen the death of many men like you. As he looked on, she began to count off the fingers of a pale hand. Godwyn the Golden, General Radahn, Miquella the Unalloyed, demigods all, greater than thee to be sure, and where did they end up? She snapped her fingers. Dead, ruined, vanished to parts unknown. But you, her eyes held his over the fire, paused, considered. Who are you really? Naruto didn't like those eyes. They saw too much. Just a normal guy. Nay, I think not, because you are not. She tilted her head to regard him further, sniffed once, frowned. You aren't from these lands. Another quick inhalation, tasting the air, or perhaps his scent. Naruto wasn't sure he liked either notion. There, I thought as much. Her lips pursed into a thin line. Thou art a demigod, then. I should have known. The arrogance of thy kind knows no bounds. Those words stung from some reason like the buzzing of a dozen flies. Him? A god? Just the thought of it made him feel sour. He wasn't a god. Not by a long shot, no, anything but that. He had scraped and spat and snarled for everything he had. His strength was the product of hard work and little else. Besides, what kind of god let people like Neji and Obito die? If he were truly a god, he could have saved everyone in the Fourth Shinobi War. But hadn't, had he? No. He shook his head slowly, bangs swaying. I'm no god. You are a demigod. Greyroll's level gaze met his own across the flames. No hint of that flustered dragon here. Her calm was ice-cold, colder than one of Haku's jutsu. Not one of Marika's or Radagon's whelps, but a demigod, nonetheless. I can see it now. Thou art descended from one, thy blood diluted perhaps, but no less potent. You hold the spark of divinity within you. Thy kind comes from greatness. Is she talking about Asura? Or Old Man Sage? Could be. Kurama creaked on eye open within his mind. We know you're a distant descendant of them. Technically speaking, given your feats. No. Don't you dare. You could be considered a demigod too. Sorry, kid. Truth is the truth. Truth, he said. Naruto scoffed. Truth was in the eye of the beholder. He was no demigod. In his mind, he never would be. Yet for all your strength, Greyroll went on in spite of his sulking, you cannot save everyone. Let alone this rotten land. The rot you see before you hails from a goddess, not unlike Marika. She will not be so easily bested. Doesn't mean I won't try. Somebody's got to stop it. Queen Marika, perhaps. Another shrug was his reward. She hasn't been seen for an age. She's likely dead. Her mouth curled in a bit of draconic derision. Or perhaps she fled these lands once they fell to ruin. Those of the Newman line have ever been cowards and cravens. She and her children, with few exceptions, had proven themselves the same. The ring on Naruto's finger pricked him most painfully. Ow! Blasted thing. You say that like, you know. Come, let us speak of the past a while. Folding both legs beneath her, Greyroll did just that. forcing him to do the same or leave her behind. What do you know of this land's history? His brow furrowed. Less than I should. Understandable. A pale hand pushed a ringlet of pear hair from her eyes. You are not from this realm. She turned head towards the ruined remnants of a tree and spat, setting it ablaze to provide them some meagre warmth. Allow me to summarize for your sake, then. Those bewitching orbs swung back to him, held him as her voice dipped lower. In the time before the Elden Ring and the Erd Tree, 'twas a different age. An age of giants, of beasts, of dragons. He listened, rapt with attention as Greyrol wove her tale. Then came Marika and her precious Golden Order. Venom crept into the story, tainting it. They usurped Lord Placidusa, drove the dragons away, and slew the giants. And for what? She turned her head and spat. Ooh, look what has become of them now. Such is the folly of mankind. Right, because she wasn't biased about this at all. You feel strongly about this, huh? Placidusix is akin to my ancestor. She pulled a face. In your terms, he would be my great-great-great-grandfather. Under his reign, the age of dragons was a blessed one. I remember it well. A time where strength ruled, where death was not fettered by small-minded souls. A rare bite of longing gnawed at her words, her gaze gone wistful as she turned an eye to the sky. Might made right in those days. None of this endless dickering about that thy kind seemed to favour so. You would have fared well in such an age. Maybe. Naruto found he disagreed. You're saying the strong ruled, but what happened to the weak? The silence proved telling. Almost damnably so. Doesn't sound like an error I'd enjoy. Fair. Concern flashed across her face as she mistook his tone for something else. You are tired. I did not intend to keep you. She stood sharply, stiffly, stretching her limbs. Enough of my strength has returned. And he knew the lie at once. We shall go our separate ways tomorrow. So soon? Indeed. Was that a flicker of hesitation he felt just now? Surely it was his imagination. I have responsibilities to which I must attend. Naruto blew out a sigh. He'd thought he would have been happy to be rid of this grumpy dragon girl. Not long ago he might have, but he'd seen a different side of her. It was starting to grow on him. She might be wild and flighty, but there was wisdom beneath the anger and arrogance, a tired soul that he couldn't help but empathize with. Now if only she'd stop being so damn grumpy. His sixth sense shrilled a warning as something approached their campfire. Hey, boss? A familiar voice, one of his clones, called out to him as the figure stepped into view. We might have a problem. Scree! A piercing screech split the air from the main road. Naruto craned his neck back. Do I want to know what that was? Greyrol's head whipped around, eyes wide as dinner plates. That can't be. Millicent whimpered wordlessly in her deep sleep. It almost sounded like an apology. 0.0, 0.0, rot. His wings ached. His scales screamed. Even his very breath was fouled. He had only one recourse for his torment. And so he screamed. 0.0, 0.0, my baby. How is that a child? It was another dragon, of course. Naruto nearly did a double take as he beheld the braying beast in the distance. Even from here he could see the dragon wasn't well. Patches of ghastly white limned its already pale body, further blighting what he could only assume was scarlet rot. Far smaller than Greyrol's, to be sure, but no less dangerous. As he looked on, it shrieked at a twisted dog that had come too close to its hideaway. The hound vanished in a cloud of rot and succumbed instantly. What remained was snapped up by the dragon's jaws and devoured post-haste. Kurama made a squelching noise. Well, that's unsanitary. Naruto's clone scratched the back of its head. We kinda stumbled onto him and woke him up. He's been rampaging ever since. Rampage was a tame word. The dragon was biting rocks now. Greyrol had a far less pleasant reaction. That is, Ikaisuke's, she explained hastily as they gazed upon the rotten creature. One of mine children, the youngest. A naked longing lurked in her voice. I did not know he suffered so... Her eyes all but snapped to his. You, she swallowed on her pride, nearly choked on it, then mastered herself. You will help him, won't you, Rot Queller? That's what you do. Help people. Naruto's brow rocketed into his hair. My, how quickly the tables had turned. Was it wrong that he felt just a little smug now? Just a bit. I thought you didn't want me doing that. He planted his feet. You just said so. Greyrol whined and took a moment to comport herself. He is my kin. He suffers. Surely you won't leave him like this. A golden eyebrow climbed higher. She squirmed like a naughty child under his gaze. You sure that's a he? Leave it to the clone to speak his mind. Don't think the boss can handle many more dragon girls, not if they're anything like you. Greyroll smacked the clone in the stomach and dispelled it. He cannot change his shape. She slashed clawed fingers through the smoke as the haze faded. Such is a skill gained over a great many years, years he doesn't have, will not have, if you don't do something. Kurama, don't look at me. If you want to wrestle with a dragon, that's your business. Help my son, I beg of thee. Before he could think to stop her, Greyroll prostrated herself before him, physically kneeling and all but pressing her face into the rot-ruined earth. I'll give you whatever you want. My mind. My body! Please, I'll bear your children, whatever you desire. Oi! You're taking this way too far. Get up! Come on, up! Stand up, damn it! You're embarrassing me. Greyroll didn't budge. Not an inch. She only made a pitiful noise. It sounded like a sob. How could he ignore emotions like that? She was just too damn honest. I was already gonna help, geez. Don't beg. Naruto stalked down the rise. 0.0. Ikisuke's whirled as a shadow fell over his bulk. Rotted though he was, the dragon's instincts remained. Intruder! Trespasser! Rip and tear! Bid and scream! Kill and... Maddened eyes looked up, gazed into the peerless golden slits of a furious fox. Be a good boy and hold still, or else. The dragon whimpered. 0.0. Melina found them the next morning. Naruto sensed the maiden before he saw her, felt her coming as he picked at the dying embers of their campsite. In truth, he was amazed it had taken her this long at all. He'd half expected Melina to hunt him down like a stag, drag his sorry hide back to the round table, and give him a telling off besides. But no. This time her arrival proved a silent one, wholly absent of the previous pomp and circumstance she'd used to get his attention that fateful day. Hey! He pushed himself up off his haunches, dusted off his tattered trousers, and turned to face her. Long time no see. A suit of armor smacked into his chest. Naruto caught it with both hands, then frowned once he realized exactly what he was holding. He, recognizing the draconic scales at once, they were the same color as the carcass he'd hauled to the round table only a few days ago. Light armor, drake scale, a bright burgundy shade fitted with amber pauldrons and greaves tapering off into intricate metalwork he had no hope of describing. And so he didn't bother. Never in his life had he worn armor, but this, he didn't have words. Master Hugh finished it just this morning. He knew at once by her words that Melina was terribly cross with him. Or maybe that was her index finger currently digging into his ribcage. I'll not have you wandering about the lands between looking like some wastrel. Kurama offered a low whistle. If this is what he can do with subpar materials, well, I wonder what else he's capable of. Naruto cradled his prize close to his chest. That your way of saying you missed me? Melina's face closed down at once. No, her emotions said otherwise. Oh, you did miss me. Ow, ow, ow. His laughter peaked into a yelp when she kicked his shin. All right. Thanks for the armor. I'll give Hugh my regards when I get back. Naruto let it be, but paused just short of donning it. A quick glance confirmed no one save Melina was looking his way. Not yet. That could soon change. Greyroll might not appreciate him wearing armor like this. Could be one of her kids. She might even take offense. It wouldn't stop him, of course, but still. 'Tis all one and the same to me. He heard her voice rise near the fire. That armor is yours by right of conquest. Besides, that's not one of mine, Tild. The blonde released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Great. I'll put in on right away. Looks easy enough. Melina made a garbled noise and looked away as he doffed his ruined clothing. Naruto kept an eye on her all the while. Her gaze traveled to Millicent's prone form, sprawled sleepily atop a crude bed fashioned from Torrent's saddlebags. Her eyes traveled yet further and alighted upon the restored Ikisuke's, slumbering peacefully not a yard away from the spectral steed itself. Her right eye began to twitch. By the time it settled upon Greyroll, gnawing happily on a haunch of meat, Melina looked like she was about to have a stroke. No shortage of companions, as ever. She clicked her tongue. I don't know why I'm surprised. You truly are an odd sort. To be fair, I kind of stumbled into them. Truly? She almost looked back, flushed, then thought better of it. You have the devil's own luck, Tarnished. Nah. He stumbled, then stomped his way into a boot. The fit was perfect. Hugh knew his stuff. I'm just a simple man, making my way in the world. That or a fool. Greyroll had held her tongue for the last minute or so, staring overlong at Melina. No longer. You overreach yourself, kindling maiden. Now she granted her a small, subtle smile. Whatever would your mother say? Melina's face drained of all colour. How do you? My eyes see much. The mother of dragons made a show of digging a bit of dirt out her nails. It is allowed to me by Lord Placidusa. Naruto quirked a brow. There was something about that word. Kindling? Melina pivoted so quickly she damn near blurred. Nothing to concern yourself with? Why was she panicking? Something had her spooked, but what? Dunno. Sounds pretty important to me. Forget what's thou heard. Her good eye flashed. Forget! Had he heard those words somewhere before? She spoke just a bit too quickly for his liking, her voice breaking on the last word. He could have pressed her for details, pushed the envelope further. He was well within his rights, easily within his power too. Melina could hardly stop him if he tried to wring answers out of her. And yet something in her pleading expression held him back. Pressing her now might lead to something he wouldn't be able to take back. Fine. With a weary sigh, relented. Look, if I worried, yeah, I'm sorry. He laid a hand on his shoulder. But I've got work to do here. I am aware. 'Tis why I have come. She pounced on his words, setting another alarm wailing in the back of his head. There is a great rune nearby, a powerful one at that. Stepping back but a little, she tugged herself from his grasp, but her eye never left his. Not once. I thought you might wish to seek it. Clever girl. Naruto perked up regardless. Is that so? Indeed. The maiden managed to smile. 'Twould be better to have it in your possession, would it not? All right, even he could see through Melina's machinations here. She was clearly trying to push him after this Radan fellow, urging him on to another great rune. But why? What interest did she have in collecting them? It didn't make a lick of she intend to use them. No, there wasn't the slightest hint of greed or avarice about her. She didn't seem to have any desire for such. So why? Does it matter? Our goals align, for now. Greyroll clicked her tongue, drawing him back to the present. Do not try to manipulate him, kindling woman. It won't end well for you. I have no desire to manipulate him. Melina drew herself upright with a huff. We have an accord, nothing more. Enough! Speak plainly, or I will plainly separate thine head from thy shoulders. Naruto coughed into a fist. Well, that's one way to motivate her. Melina ducked her head, swallowed once, then nodded. When next she spoke, her voice was terribly soft. The rune is held by General Radan. Chapter 7. I don't think I can do it. It's such a long way to jump. Always is. When it matters, it always will be. You just need a running start. Tilda, a wise being. Festival of War Millicent was awake. Naruto noticed at once, if only because he had been keeping an eye on her as they neared the castle. It wasn't out of distrust, but rather concern. For reasons he couldn't quite comprehend, Melina didn't seem much fond of the once rotten girl. Indeed, she went well out of her way to avoid any and all mention of their resident redhead, almost as if she knew her. Wouldn't even walk near her at that. He sensed a story lurking there, but now wasn't the time for such things. Please, water! Definitely thoughts for later, because once Millicent stirred atop Torrance and began begging for a drink, he couldn't help himself. He hastened to her side, canteen in hand, even gave her what remained of his field rations to chase down the lukewarm liquid as best he could. She ate sparingly, not once protesting, even when he helped her out the saddle and lowered her to the dirt. No surprise there. Poor thing must have been exhausted. Not so exhausted to ignore him, however. The second he set her down, she raised her gaze, golden eyes pinning him. You quelled the scarlet rot? More or less? Naruto quirked a brow. Good afternoon to you too. When the recovering redhead sputtered to that effect, he craned his neck back, searching for another maiden. Hey, Melina, any chance you could get me a... She was already gone, vanishing back into the ether from whence she'd come. He clicked his tongue and glared at the fading motes of light. Sheesh. Who put a bee in her bonnet? She's awake then. Greyroll made a tutting noise behind him. Good. I shall scout ahead and inspect this fortress while she gets her bearings. A rueful chuckle escaped him. Pretty sure Melina called it a castle. She shrugged. 'Tis all one and the same to me. And if the gate ain't open? Her eyes flashed, cat-like slits narrowing in draconic glee. Then I shall knock it down. Come, Exekies, let them have their moment. Having said her piece, the mother of dragons sashayed off, leaving her looming son to lumber after her apace. Exeeks paused a moment to regard Millicent with a giant eye. Abruptly it leaned forward and gave her a soft nudge with its snout. Soft for a dragon, that is. Millicent squeaked and nearly fell over. Naruto barked a laugh and kept her upright. Don't mind him. He's a friendly fellow once you get to know him. This is friendly? Sure is. He ran a hand over the young dragon's mending scales, then gave it a nudging, sending the massive beast stomping after its mother. See? He's a good boy. I beg you forgiveness. Millicent's face flushed at the last as it plodded away. My apologies for fainting before I could thank you. It's just as you said. The rot. It has ceased to writhe. She reached up to grip her restored arm, seemed shocked to remember it was still there, then comported herself enough to continue. I may not understand it, but all the voices in my head are silent. Even the nightmares have abated. A fresh spot of colour hit her cheeks and she ducked her head anew. I slept like a babe. I'll say, a laugh burst from his lips, you were out for a while. Once again, her pale visage darkened with colour. 1,000 apologies. Don't be embarrassed, it's fine. He patted her head without thinking, heedless of the curious noise she made. How are you feeling? Better. She frowned but a little when his palm pulled away. Though I can scarcely believe it, I can move as I please. She rubbed her wrist again, doubtless to make certain it was still there. It is all thanks to you. Was that adoration in her eyes? Naruto wasn't sure how to feel about that. The young warrior clearly respected his efforts, but he still couldn't bring himself to look her in the eye and meet the awe there. It wasn't as if he'd done anything particularly noteworthy. Anybody would have done the same. No, she shook her head, red locks swaying. You saved me. I will not forget that so long as I live. She frowned when several strands of hair tickled her nose. Could you perhaps? Sure, Tild. With deft movements and a bit of cord, he held her bind her hair back into a loose bun. My thanks. With her crimson locks out of the way, she looked even more human than before. I'll never be able to repay you at this rate. No problem. Just be careful and try to avoid any sudden moves. He almost didn't want to say it, but he had to warn her all the same. I'm not sure if I got all that crap out. Millicent gasped and glared at her arm, as though it had betrayed her. For a wild moment she looked as though she might cut it off again. The rot still remains within me. Even now? Only a little. He made a pinching motion with his thumb and forefinger to reassure her. If it comes back, I'll wipe it out. Same as before. Her face lit up, and not for the reasons one might expect. Oh. She squirmed beneath his gaze, knees twisting in thinly veiled agitation. I see, so you'll do that again. Naruto sputtered at the memory. If I have to. Millicent didn't make a sound. Her flustered expression spoke for her. Silenced reigned anew. Surprisingly, it was the redhead who finally usurped it. There is no way I could ever truly repay you, but... A hand dipped into the pouch at her side. I would like you to have this, by way of thanks. Out came her hand, clutching a golden medallion in her palm. A mere trifle it might be, but it would mean the world to me if you were to take it. Trembling fingers pushed it into his own. Consider it a token of my appreciation. On a whim, Naruto reached for it. Just holding it made him feel stronger. Strength he didn't necessarily need. What was the point in having more power? Without so much as a second thought, he pushed it back into her hands. You keep it. Millicent flinched. I beg your pardon. You need it more than me. His fingers closed around hers, forcing her to hold fast to the medallion. I'm tough enough without it. She tried to give it to him still, but he wouldn't have. I really don't need... Yes, you. Do. He stepped back and crossed both arms before his armoured chest to rebuff her attempts entirely. You're still recovering, and I ain't gonna take away something that will help you. A grimace stole over his face as he remembered just where they were headed today. You'll probably need it in the days ahead. That spurred a different reaction in the recovering redhead. You sound as if you're marching to your death. Her lips pursed into a thin line when he didn't deny the possibility. Just who do you intend to face here? Naruto told her in no uncertain terms. Why not? He gained nothing from refraining and everything for being honest. Unfortunately, Said honesty immediately sent Millicent spiraling down into a right and proper panic. You wish to fight General Radahn? Something sparked in those rotten golden eyes. Alone? Probably not if Greyroll has anything to say about it, but I will, if I got her. Millicent climbed unsteadily to her feet. Allow me to aid you then. Yeah, no. He shook his head. You just woke up and all. Her eyes met his. I will aid you. Don't discard me, her expression seemed to say. Don't cast me aside. Let me be of use to you. Please. I can't bear it. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose. Pushy redheads. Kurama was of no help at all whatsoever here. He wanted nothing to do with this and thus chose to stay silent, which in turn left the onus of choice with him. He could hardly afford to turn Millicent out into the wilds as she was now. She might catch the rot a second time, and then where would he be? No, he couldn't turn her away. She'd probably follow him in any case. She seemed the sort for it. He stepped to her and grabbed her by the shoulder, sending another pulse of chakra through her body to strengthen her further. Millicent jumped with a yelp, one that was overshadowed by his words. Fine, you win, but stay close. I mean it. She ducked her head a touch and nodded. As my lord wills. Eh? Lord? Naruto poked himself in the chest. Me? That is what you are. The fervent belief in her words, the gleam in her eyes, startled him more than anything else he'd seen in this world. Only a lord would go so far as to help a perfect stranger, let alone convince an eclectic band of such as this to work together in pursuit of a common goal. And you bear a great rune, do you not? He touched a hand to his chest where Godric's rune even now pulsed with life. Well, you're not wrong on that front. Do you perhaps have a weapon I could use? She pressed her advantage before he could think to challenge her other account. I would prefer a longsword or a katana if you have such. Didn't he have one of those? Naruto turned, regarding the bundle on Torrent's bag. He'd scrounged through a few the battlefields they'd passed, leaving his steed's saddlebags full to bursting. She didn't seem the sort for a greatsword, and a short sword probably wouldn't be enough for someone like her. Gimme a sec. It was the work of moments to find something that would suit her. He'd stumbled upon it by chance when some maniac attacked him near a cave. If it had a name, he didn't know it. He pressed a slender katana into her hands. Millicent accepted it, unsheathed the blade, and cut a quick slice through the air. A blade of light burst forth to annihilate a nearby boulder with ease, leaving its severed halves to slide apart and crash down into the rot-ridden dirt. Naruto blinked. Curious, she sheathed it again and repeated the process twice more, producing an arc of blue transience each time. This is Moonveil, she whispered quietly, sheathing it for the final time, an ancient glintstone blade forged by a Celian sorcerer in times long past. Where did you find this? Naruto shrugged. By chance? Her gaze met his. No one's that lucky. Maybe I am. He offered a selfsame smile. Dunno what to tell you. This is a fine blade. I gladly accept it. Only, abruptly she flushed anew. Would you mind averting your eyes for a moment? Now what was she up to? Still, he sensed no ill intent and complied, presenting his left side to her as he looked way. All right, there. Why'd you want me to do this? Something warm, soft, and infinitely yielding touched his right cheek. Little more than a feather's brush, a lingering touch, it nevertheless startled him all the same. When he looked back, he found Millicent kneeling hastily before him, head bowed, one fist pressed against her bosom, eyes fixed firmly on the road underfoot. Kurama perked up. Would you look at that? I've decided that I would rather trust you than simply continuing to spoil from within. Millicent's words were faint, almost a whisper, cheeks burning brighter than her hair. I had expected to die, to simply rot away, to be little more than a footnote in history. You changed that. And yet, though it shames me, I fear I must ask another boon of you. Her eyes met his, damp with unshed tears. Please, I beg of thee, take me into your service. Naruto's brow shot into his hair. Wanna run that by me again? I wish to aid you in your quest to become Elden Lord. The former amputee spoke quickly, hastily, even nearly tripping over herself in her haste to explain for fear of him denying her. Let me be your sword, your shield, your shadow in all things. As he looked on aghast, Millicent planted that fist into the dirt and bowed her head anew. I would protect you from all those that would do thee harm. Sullied though I am, I promise to uphold your vows, your morals, all that you are. And someday, this, she added in a voice so faint even he had to strain to hear it, those that come after you. Oh.
Oh?
Oh, Tilda. Naruto's brain fizzled out when she didn't finish that sentence. How did one respond to a proposition like this? No, how could you respond? Help, please! Not a chance. Kurama snickered, grinning from ear to ear. You're on your own here. Have fun. His right eye began to twitch. Stop that! And so he spat out the first thing that came to mind. You're not sullied at all. Stand up. You can help me if you want. But don't go throwing yourself in the dirt. Her head rose tentatively. Oh, will you accept my into your service? She wasn't going to get up until he said yes. Naruto just knew it. What did Shikamaru always say? Such a drag. Yes, sure, fine. He looked away, palming his face to hide burning cheeks. Now get up. Come on. You're embarrassing me. He felt a fierce flare of joy from the redhead as she climbed to her feet, one so powerful it threatened to take his breath away. For a singular moment she shone to his senses because of that singular emotion. She caught it and tamped it down quickly, composing herself, but he couldn't forget what he'd seen. Pure girl, his mind bleated. Must protect. Then my sword is yours. Millicent straightened with a smile, all but glowing with pride. I promise you shan't regret this. Although... She took a small shy step toward him, into his personal space and touched a hand to one breast. I wonder what this feeling is. I feel oddly warm. Naruto's heart leaped into his throat. She was close. Too close, bring with her the scent of herbs. It was not an unpleasant armor. A triumphant shout shook the world, followed by a distant plume of dust. Millicent blinked. Once, twice, thrice now. Whatever was that? He heaved a sigh, almost disappointed by the distraction. Huh, guess Greyroll found a troll. 0.0, 0.0. Champions, welcome! Of all the greetings Naruto had expected in the courtyard, those were not among them. Greyroll had been true to her word. By the time they'd caught up, the gate guard lay dead and the castle gates were ripped asunder to grant them passage. Well, most of them. Lacking a human form, Exix was forced to wait outside while they conducted their business within. He'd make a fine guard if anyone tried to creep up on their flank. Even so, no such ambush was forthcoming, for none barred their entry. The stars have aligned. Now they knew why, as a man's voice boomed out as they entered the plaza. The festival is nigh! Sure enough, his keen eyes spotted a masked man hoisting a flamberge high atop one of the ramparts well above them. His very voice brimmed with gusto. General Radahn, mightiest demigod of the Shattering, awaits you. Millicent tilted her head to regard the bevy of warriors awaiting them within, some spectral, others mercifully solid. Seems a strange place to hold a festival. 'Tis a human right. Greyroll groused, lips pursed in a thin line as she glared at a giant jar. Thy kind has always been known for such foppery and finery. We dragons celebrate in a different fashion. Naruto couldn't help but quirk a brow at that. How so? Her hip brushed his in a telling fashion. Perhaps I shall show thee sometime. Millicent bridled in the corner of his eye, but said nothing. He knew she'd have words for her later. Mercifully, Melina manifested between them they could snap at one another. You should see the festivals in the capital, dragon. The bite in her words had him drawing back. They would put your petty rituals to shame. Greyroll glared golden daggers at her, but with her ire thus diverted, Millicent took her chance and stuck to his side. Champions, prepare for battle. Once more the Castellan's voice rang out above them, diverting their attention for the umpteenth time. Defeat the general. Claim glory and grab that great rune. His words peaked low with fervour bordering on mania now, as he addressed the scattered souls standing before them. Such is our celebration of war. The Radahn Festival. Naruto scratched the back of his head, feeling more than a little chagrined. Guess we've got competition. Understatement of the century there. He counted nearly a dozen stalwart men and women assembled in the plaza. A man wearing what he thought was a wolf's mask, a giant jar, a big brute in armour, a maiden clad in thin cloth. The list went on and on. He could have sworn he saw a samurai among them too, but surely that wasn't possible. Why would one of Mifune's people be here? Never mind that. How many people were after this great rune? The low whinny of a horse cut through his thoughts. Naruto pivoted toward it, only to find himself somewhat caught out when he failed to find the source. That noise hadn't come from Torrent. The spectral steed was enjoying a well-earned rest outside with Exix. And besides, this sounded bigger. Much bigger. Now who did he know that rode a giant horse? An answer smacked him upside the head in the same instant. A long shadow fell over him from on high. A familiar shadow, one he knew all too well. Melina manifested not a stone's throw away, head tilted a fraction of an inch. "Ah!" was her sole exclamation. It would seem she caught up. That was Naruto's only warning. Someone crashed down into the plaza directly behind him, startling every champion in the plaza. Dust kicked up, and he flung up an arm against it as his hood was blasted back. Squinting into the haze, he beheld a mighty steed and a mightier shape, even now clambering off its back. Dull gold armor glimmered in the light of the Erd tree, contrasting harshly against the crimson sky of Kaled. A familiar grunt had his hackles rising. Then she was upon him. He barked out a laugh, knowing what was coming. "Trish, don't you dare!" Too little, too late. The last word was only just leaving his mouth when a golden arm got hold of his ankle. Not a heartbeat later, he found hoisted himself into the air, all but dangled upside down like a child's toy. Blue eyes fluttered in a brief blink, gazing into that wrathful helm and the scowling face within. "Hey," he managed a Cheshire grin. "Mind putting me down?" The tree sentinel poked him again, checking him over for wounds. "Hey," he laughed. "Not in front of my friends." "Ow, I missed you too." "Did you really ride all the way out here?" She must have. Melina confirmed his suspicions as she reappeared only a stone's throw away, looking faintly bemused by his plight. "I lacked the strength to bring her with me." The tree sentinel made a decidedly unimpressed noise at that and waffled a golden hand in the Madien's general vicinity. For her part, she paid her little heed. Naruto winced at the fire there. "Look, I really am sorry, but I didn't think I'd get you inked back in the round table, you know." Greyroll tilted her head. "'Twould seem you don't lack for interesting company. However did you tame her?" "Bit of a long story there, and I didn't tame anyone." "Then how did she interfere in your service?" Millicent was giving the sentinel a rather odd look as well, all the while gripping her restored wrist. Leave it to her to focus on that. Another thought occurred to him as he dangled there. "Her arm! Hey, that's right. I can heal you now." Almost forgot. Slipping out of the Trish's grasp, he caught himself in a crouch and took a step forward, moving well into her personal space. "Just take your helmet off and I can fix you right up, Tilda." "Nah!" The tree sentinel made a noise that couldn't be anything other than a denial. A golden gauntlet slapped his chest, forcing him back a piece. "What the heck?" When she shook her head, setting the plume atop her helm swaying, understanding dawned. "You don't want me to?" She made a less than pleasant gesture across her throat, prompting a frown from him. "Oi, I still can't understand you." With a long-suffering sigh, the sentinel snatched a stray dagger off a nearby table. Dragging its rusty edge, she used it to carve words into the dirt at their feet. "My penance? Don't waste your strength on me. Not worthy." Indignation sparked in his soul. "Screw that! I've got plenty of chakra left. Now off with your helmet." Trish shook her head anew for all that good it did her. A quick step and a hop and he had hold of her helm. A twist of his wrists tore it free, revealing her wide eyes to the world. More than a few champions winced when they beheld her ruined visage. Millicent hissed. Greyroll actually made a rare noise of sympathy as she saw her scars. Even as she did, the tree sentinel slammed back, furiously shaking her head. "It's not gonna hurt, I swear." Naruto stepped after her. "Here, just hold still." Melina laid a hand on his wrist. "Now is not the time. Surely she has a reason for resisting you so. Perhaps you should wait until after the battle." Naruto nearly protested, until he saw the look on Trish's face. Although she loomed over the lot of them, she suddenly looked fit to bolt no. She was afraid, terrified. Not of him, but something else. What then? What had her so spooked that she wouldn't accept healing? In the end, he chose to heed Melina's advice. Just this once. He'd seek the Sentinel's secrets after Radahn was dealt with. "Here." He tossed her helm back and stalked up the steps. "I'll be having words with you when this is over. Stay put, you know. I'll be right back." Without pausing to see her reaction, he left the lot of them behind to have words with the Castellan. It was as much an excuse to get away from the look in her eyes as anything else. He couldn't bear to see Trish wearing an expression like that. Imagine his surprise then, when he found the man waiting for him atop the rampart. "Aha! It seems we have a Goddelsayer among us." Despite his aged mask, The man beneath it all sounded heartened as he turned to meet him. "Come to grab another great rune, have you, young chum?" There was something almost merry in that affable voice that both made him lower his guard and tense in the same instant. "You know me?" "I know of you, rather." The Castellan cackled merrily. "I didn't think the slayer of Godric would grace us with his presence." "Ah, seemed word had gotten out after all." "Why does everyone know about that?" "Lad, you're the first tarnished to hold a great rune since Vike. May the stars smile upon his sorry soul." The aging warrior made a strange sign before his own chest, nodded, then jerked a gloved thumb toward Naruto and the pulsing golden-green shard even now beating near his heart. "But I'm afraid you'll find no easy prey here. Godric was the runt of the litter, I know." He felt an old anger overtake him. Why speak ill of the dead? Whatever he'd once been, he was gone now. "The others will be stronger, yada yada yada. I've heard it all afore." "And you are?" "Call me Jaren, lad." Quick bow of that bearded mask. "I imagine you have questions about the good general?" "I do." He certainly did. It was why he'd come up here in the first place. "Who is Radahn? What's he like? Was he another Godric? Another monster to be put down?" He hoped not. "Allow me to paint you the full picture." Jaren swung an arm out past him towards the wailing dunes below, where monuments of blades and banners stood etched within. General Radahn was and still is a mighty warrior, strongest demigod of his generation. Now he is cursed ever to wander. Eaten from the inside by millennia's scarlet rot, his wits are long gone. His voice dipped in rare melancholy, head hanging just a touch before he recovered himself. Now he gathers the corpses of former friends and foes alike, gorging on them like a dog, howling at the sky. A baleful roar echoed from the dunes. Naruto swallowed despite himself. So he's lost his mind? Long ago. Jaren didn't even sound sad to say it anymore, just resigned. "But now we must make merry," he righted himself as he looked on, "for the time has come to give him his rest." Quick as a flash, the Castellan pivoted back to Melina and the others below, hoisting his flamberge high once more. "O gathering of champions, the revels begin, our celebration of war." His sword crashed down, splintering the wood beneath him with a sonorous crack. "The Radahn Festival," colour me surprised. Didn't think the old coot would be that honourable. "Go now," said Old Soul straightened up. "Speak with the others. Make your preparations. It will take a great man of you to stand even a slim chance against our commander." Naruto pivoted, stifling a second sigh of his own. "Don't have to tell me twice." Jaren called out to him before he could take a single step. "Boy." He stilled. "Yeah? Give him a good battle, won't you?" Naruto reached up and tugged at his headband. "I'll do my best." 0.0, 0.0. Alexander perked up the moment he saw them. How could he not? This was to be a festival of champions, after all. And these were a sterling sort indeed. Nor was he the only one to take notice of them. 0.0, 0.0. Theralina was but a humble finger maiden. She didn't consider herself particularly strong compared to some of the heroes here, but she was well versed with incantations of the Golden Order and quick on her feet. Such was expected of her naturally, for she served the will of the two fingers, bringing their grace and guidance to all whom cared to listen. And one day, someday soon, she would share that strength with her tarnished. She still hadn't found him, or her, yet, but Theralina was certain she would eventually encounter her destined one. The two fingers had promised her after all. Such was the guidance of grace. She just hadn't searched in the right places. Yes, that was it. Long had she scoured high and low, following rumours all about the lands between, hoping in vain. Until finally she stumbled upon an odd man known as Seluvis. Such a strange wizard, that one, but he'd proven himself a relatively trustworthy sort thus far. 'Twas he who took her in when she was starving. Was he who first told her about this festival. Was he who even offered her a potion to help her on her quest. She would have gladly taken him up on the latter, but she did not wish to be indebted to him any further than she already was. And so she had kindly refused the tonic he offered and taken her leave with great thanks, promising to return if she failed to find her intended here. She must succeed here. She did not wish to impugn upon his generosity any longer. Surely she would find her tarnished in these grounds. 'Twas a tournament of champions, after all, sure to attract tarnished far and wide. Doubtless some already had maidens of their own, But surely there was at least one here without, one person who could fulfill her purpose, make her feel complete. Come on, Melina. The voice of a young man plucked her from her misery as surely as a bird would a worm. It'll be fine. 'Twill not be fine, a woman snapped back. I'll not see you herring off again without a plan. Drawn by these words, the young finger maiden pivoted, seeking their source. Imagine her surprise then, when her eye fell upon a strapping young blonde being fussed over by not one, not two, but 4 women. Clad in amber drakescale armor, he stood apart from the rest not solely for that, but for his aura alone. Fair of face was he, with striking blue eyes and whiskered cheeks, even now dimpled in a sunny smile. But what truly drew her attention was the great rune pulsing in his chest. As a finger maiden, Theralina recognized its make at once, for the wisdom of the fingers was always with her. It was the rune of Godric. There could be no doubt. Ah, she understood now. Like so many others, this one sought the rune of Radahn. Theralina couldn't abide that. She needed that great rune. With one such as that, she could find her destined tarnished. The other shard-bearers were out of reach or otherwise beyond her meagre means to find. But here, if she had help, here, with numbers on her side, she had her chance. Her best chance, her last chance, her only chance. The blonde blinked suddenly regarding another competitor. That is a big dog. Half wolf, actually, the being retorted. He talks? Theralina almost found herself smiling despite herself as the two struck up a rapport. Was that the half-wolf blade, Shadow Tarani? The 2 fingers might be pleased to learn of his location when next she visited the round table. Still, her eyes strayed to the woman near the blonde as the duo conversed. A dragonkin woman bickered with a redhead, while a towering woman in golden armor glared bloody daggers at a lass bearing one eye. Oddly enough, the other looked to have been sealed by something. The other was fixed firmly on the blonde. That last thought tore at her heartstrings. She had the look of a maiden, which meant the blonde wasn't the one. He'd no need of her. If he already had a maiden tending to his every need, he would not take a second. Rare was the sort who did such, and rarer still the blonde that persisted as 2 maidens fought over a single tarnished. And yet, Theralina turned her gaze inward. She could feel the strength of runes lingering about him, a great many of them. Hundreds of thousands, untapped power waiting to be unleashed at the right moment. Surely if he had a maiden, all those runes would have been turned to strength long ago. But he hadn't used any of them. Not a one. What, then, did that mean? A tiny, timid hope bloomed in Theralina's heart. Did he not have a maiden after all? He looked away suddenly, no doubt sensing her gaze. The moment their eyes, Theralina averted her own and managed a polite bow. He returned it with an awkward wave. By the time she looked up, he was distracted yet again. Thank the fingers for small mercies. She couldn't bring herself to speak to him. No, nay, not yet. She dare not approach. Not now. Not when he was surrounded by so many. Certainly not with that giant jar trundling their way. To approach him now would only see her swept up with the others, one voice lost among many. But perhaps, yes, after the battle she would try, if she lived. If Radahn didn't slay her. So many ifs. She just had to survive. 0.0, 0.0. There he is. Naruto saw a giant shape across the dunes, a great hulking warrior that dwarfed them all. The distant figure of Radahn moved with impossible speed. An arrow hurtled their way. Millicent yelped. 0.0, 0.0. Radahn feasted. He bent low to the ground and gorged himself on another would-be champion, tearing great strips from their flesh with his teeth alone. His teeth scoured rotten flesh, managing little more than a few middling bites before he had his full. His meal secured, he reared back and howled at the sky. Kill and eat. Eat and kill. It was all he was. He ripped and tore. It was all he was. All he knew. All that he could do. Sometimes there were moments in which he despaired, brief seconds of sanity that surfaced once every decade or so. Even now in his mad state, his body falling apart, his organs rotted, his instincts yet remained. His addled mind still clung to 3 precious tenets, even now. They anchored him, must not eat Leonard. Leonard was horse. Horse was good boy, all he had left of his family. Hold back the stars. Do not let them fall. Never let them fall. And above all, fight. Fight so that he might end. So long as he held the stars back, the world would be safe. Someone had told him that once. A man with red hair. He no longer remembered who. There were monsters in the stars. Beasts that came from the void, cruel creatures who loved not and knew only destruction. So long as he held the cosmos in check, all was well. But there was another Rausen, wasn't there? And Rani would be safe. Rani? Who was Rani? He no longer knew. There. Movement in the dunes. The moment fizzled out and Radahn righting himself, reaching for his great bow. A giant hand ripped 3 spears from his skewered back and took aim. It was a simple action. Gravity magic flared, forming a distant nebulae at the tip of his arrow as he drew the string back yet further. His eyes saw much, even at this distance, chief among them a woman with stark red hair. The rot in him stirred at the sight, seething like the frenzied flame itself. Radahn recalled a woman with such flaming locks. Rotted though he was, his body knew well the face of the one who had brought this blight upon him. Millennia, Blade of Miquella, rotten, dishonourable witch who couldn't bear to take a loss. And now she was come again, come to mock him, taunt him, torment him. Her fault! All her fault! He loosed the arrow with hate in his heart. Straight and true did it fly, crossing the distance in an instant before they could hope to react. A cry of pain reached his ears. One down. He could see dark shapes racing across the sands toward him now. Radahn roared a challenge at them. Something roared back. Radahn! A man's voice ripped through the wailing dunes, a shockwave of sound tearing across heaps of broken weapons and mouldering bones to reach him. And for the first time since the rot had come upon him, Starscourge Radahn quivered, but not in fear. Nay, he shuddered for an altogether different reason. It was a brief, momentary thing, but it gave his prey time enough to speak again. I came here to face a champion! His voice was fire and death, hope and light incarnate. I am still waiting. Come and get me! Unless you're afraid, Tilda. Radahn's heart sang. Those words. A worthy foe. A good death. And end. At last. Long had he waited. The last broken scrap of his mind howled, and as he did, he heard the challenger howl back. Something stirred in him as he spurred Leonard forward with all due speed. Stowing his bow, he drew his blades and howled at the sky. A glorious battle. An end. That was all he wanted. Finish me, please! 0.0, 0.0. Ow, ow! Naruto hissed furiously as he ripped the great arrow from his shoulder. It went unwillingly, worsening his wound, but he grit his teeth and forced it free for his flesh. Blood spattered the sands, drawing a fair share of gasps for his companions. He shut his ears to them. Not a small wound by any means or measure, but what choice did he have? If he hadn't shoved Millicent aside at the last moment there, that would be her skewered in the sands. He could take a hit like this and laugh it off. She couldn't. What was one more scar by comparison? Had to be him. He could tank things like this. He could live. My lord! That wound. At his flank, he was vaguely aware of Millicent fretting over him, his sword fingers running down the length of his arm. Bless her simple soul. He patted her shoulder with a smile and let her haul him upright. Truth be told, her help wasn't needed, but it was pivotal that she felt useful. If even a single arrow struck Millicent, she would die. She didn't have Trish's armor, nor did she possess Greyroll's draconic vitality. She couldn't vanish into the ether and hide like Melina either. Fine. Just give me a second. Forcing chakra to the wound was easier than ever before. Almost effortless. Godric's rune had empowered every aspect of him, regeneration included. An injury like this would close in a few minutes, hardly enough to slow him down, even if it did enrage his companions. Trish took one look at his wood, snarled and leaped onto her mount. Greyroll raced barefoot into the dunes beside her. Most of the others followed their lead and charged in, seeking strength in numbers. Naruto alone lingered. You cannot heal him as you did the others. Melina appeared at his side in a shower of blue light as the last of his wound stitched itself shut. He's rotted inside and out and for far longer. She scowled at him. He was at the epicenter of the blast that ravaged Caelid. Whatever you're plotting, it won't work. Naruto lifted his chin in mulish defiance. He was sure it was writ across his face. Won't work, she said. Wouldn't know until he tried. But first, he needed Radahn's attention on him. On him and away from everyone else. There was only one way to do such. Time to put on an act to end all acts. Something he hadn't done since he was a boy. Millicent saw the look in his eye and scowled. My lord, no. Don't you dare! Too late. Radon! Naruto stepped forward, spread his arms wide, voice echoing across the wailing dunes. I came here to face a champion. I am still waiting. Still grinning, he turned around, bent over and slapped his flank. Come and get me. Unless you're afraid, Tilda. A moment of awful silence followed. And then, the world shook with an answering roar. Someone whistled behind him. Big brass balls on this one. Naruto never saw who it was. He was already bounding forward, fixed on the melee in the distance. Millicent pelted after him at his left, and a rustle of cloth told him Melina was hovering near his right. He knew better than to tell her to step aside this time. She had done that for him once. Never again. The first blow decided the course of the battle. It also nearly killed Millicent. Naruto moved to intercept the moment Radahn closed with her, only to find that there was no need or time for him to do anything. Much to his surprise, the redhead bounded forward and leaped into the air, leaving a giant blade to sweep harmlessly underfoot. The second came racing in hot on the heels of the first, only for her to kick off its edge with both feet, using the blackened blade as a springboard to further her leap. She hung in the air for a moment in blatant defiance of gravity. Parallel with his chest, her sword arm rose. Radahn looked down. Millicent's blade swung up, sheathing Moonveil in an impossible arc, and then the blade flew free, and so did she. Radahn roared in surprise as Millicent's weapon upon him in a storm of glowing azure blades, whirling and flowing as he'd only ever seen once before. All combat ceased as she single-handedly forced him back. The ring on Naruto's finger sang in blissful harmony, bringing two words to the forefront of his mind. Waterfowl dance. Whatever it was, it put Radahn on the back leg. No, a quick glance confirmed didn't have feet. They'd long since rotted away at the ankles, leaving him to rely on his scrawny steed for locomotion. Locomotion he could not maintain as he staggered under the storm. Shoulders sagged, armor buckled beneath the onslaught of steel and blue light. Millicent didn't give him the chance to counter. She just kept moving, ripping into him as if she'd been born for this, created for nothing but this singular moment. But her stamina wasn't infinite. Radahn was a demigod. She was not. Rumbling like thunder, he warded the blows away with one sword. The other rose. Naruto saw the counter coming in the same moment that Millicent finally faltered. Trish! The tree sentinel stepped in seamlessly as the redhead fell to a knee and brandished her golden shield. Naruto stepped in behind her, swept Millicent up and darted back. Those Star-Scourge greatswords descended and combat resumed. Trish ducked behind her shield, ready to weather the storm. And weather it she did. Her defenses held in the face of his fury, enduring not one but 3 singular strikes that would have split a lesser warrior in half. Radahn ignored those tearing at his flesh and raised both blades high, prepared to break her guard with an overhand smash, only for both blades to smack into a pair of open palms. The mad demigod made a noise of confusion and glared down at the immutable barrier that had saved her life. Greyroll grinned up at him, exposing rows of razor-sharp teeth in a wild leer. Come. Scales sprouted from her flesh. Face a dragon. She kicked outward, staggering him. From there, it all dissolved into a mad melee of blows. Naruto made the mistake of parrying a greatsword. The impact alone nearly ripped his arm from its socket and forced him to punch up with the other. Clenched knuckles barreled into Radahn's chin. His head snapped back, but still he remained seated atop his horse and came at him again. A Rasengan put paid to that, warping his armor to tear at his flesh, but still he didn't go down. And was with that horse? The sight nearly brought the blonde up short. How on earth could a giant like Radahn ride such a scrawny steed without crushing it? His hesitation nearly cost him an arm. Even then he barely got his guard up time. The Star-Scourge greatsword swept down, seeking his head. Giant golden palms rose to meet them, not to deflect this time, but rather to meet the blades head-on, as Greyroll had. Unlike her, he caught the blades and yanked them down, wielder and all. Radahn and his mount crashed into the sand. When they tried to rise, he raised his fists and brought all his strength down on the general's back, using Kurama's paws as battering rams. He could hardly use his full form here, doing so would harm his allies. And there were many of them now, more than he could count. Here he heard Blade howl, then saw the half-wolf pounce onto the general's thigh, driving his frozen greatsword deep. Radahn roared in pain, but even as he sought to rip him apart, Greyroll rent the giant's chest with her claws, causing yet further blood loss. Millicent crouched backwards, steadied herself, then flew into a fresh flurry of blows that hammered the general's wounded back. Melina landed atop his back and drove a dagger deep, only for the general to buck and hurtle her away. A certain jolly jar caught her, spun around, and flung the kindling maiden back into the fray with a mighty cry. Others joined in, raining down blows on the general from all sides, chipping away at his mighty vigor. They were wearing him down, slowly but surely. Now if they could just knock him down… And then the tempo changed. Radahn shuddered to a stop atop his tiny aging mount, gone still as stone. Naruto swore softly, not like the look of that one bit. What in the… A low growl seemed to rattle the dunes, no, the very air itself. Radahn was still snarling when he leaped into the air. The world fell silent. Millicent looked left first. Naruto looked right, frowned. And then he remembered to look up. All right, where did he… Is that a meteor?